EAGLES, Eagles.
Victory Monday. Victory Monday is always sweet, but it is added. It is that much more sweet when it's against the stinking weasel, cockroach, low-life Cowboys. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Monday, one and all. We are Sports Take. I am Rob Ellis. My man, Tone DeShields, is in for Derek Gunn today. Hope you guys are all doing well. Tone, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, man, how sweet it is to be loved by you, Rob Ellis. Man, what a hell of a weekend for football, but what an even better weekend for our Philadelphia Eagles, man. I feel great. I'm elated. I'm ecstatic. I'm all the adjectives that you can use. I'm all the words of positivity that you can add to this day. I'm feeling all of those things, Rob. I'm feeling it. I'm up now. It's Monday. The sun's shining bright. Let's do it.
Woo! All right. What is up? Sports on 88. What's up, Dylan, Twiz, James, Dank, Rich, Bry Guy, Mood Swing Bella, a.k.a. Maggie, Steve, and Anthony. Sports on, I saw Fitness Rebel. I haven't quite seen Chris D yet. Chris, if you're in there, let us know. Robert, Mr. Taz, Man Bar. What is up, everybody? Yes, hope everybody's good. Fandalorian, Brandon, all of you guys, man. Happy Monday to you. Tone, I don't know about you, man. That was one of those where you got it ended finally with the the tackle / fumble on the 2-yard line, and it was I said it on the post game. I think Lane Johnson said it too. It was a dog years kind of game. Like you got done and you're like, whoa. I mean, thank God it was a win, because if that's a loss, it's a killer. But that took some years off your life to close that thing out.
That's what I was saying to my wife, because me and her were watching the game, and since again, full disclosure, me and my wife have moved to Texas.
Yeah.
We moved here about a few months ago. We moved here in July, and I got to tell you, it was a hard transition for me because it takes me away from my element. Now I'm living in enemy territory. So we're sitting here watching this game, and you're right, it took so many years off of our lives. But for her specifically, all she kept saying was, I cannot go to work with this on my spirit. I cannot go to work on Monday. Spirit. I cannot go to work on Monday. If the Philadelphia Eagles lose this game, I'm going to have to call out. I'm going to do something. But lo and behold, the Philadelphia Eagles managed to pull out the win. Man, let's just call it what it is, man. When you look at the stat sheet, right? When you look at all the stats, the stat column, you look at the way the quarterbacks performed. Let's just look at it from the Dallas Cowboys perspective, right? Dak Prescott, 29 for 44, completes about 65% of his passes, 3 passing TDs, 374 passing yards. You had CeeDee Lamb, 11 catches, 191 receiving yards. They crushed you in terms of total yards. They had 406 total yards to the Eagles 292. They ran a total of 70 plays to the Eagles 59 plays. All those things. If you would have looked at that stat sheet before the game started, and the Cowboys and you told the Cowboys you'll get those numbers from Dak, you'll get those numbers from CeeDee Lamb, you'll get that many opportunities, I'm pretty sure they would say, oh yeah, we'll take that, and we're going to win the game.
Yep.
But lo and behold, what happened? We saw 2 different teams take advantage of 2 entirely different set of opportunities, and it ended up working out in the Philadelphia Eagles' favor.
Yeah, here's the amazing part. If you just look at the fourth quarter, which is, in and of itself, it's unbelievable what went down. So the Eagles get outgained 163-14 in the fourth quarter, 163-14. That's hard to do. All right. So they had the Cowboys had 3 drives inside the Eagles 30 and came away with no points. In fact, the last drive, they got down to 1st and goal at the 6 with 27 seconds left. False start, sack, incompletion, delay of game penalty, completion to Lamb at the 2-yard line, which he didn't score on. I mean, like, that's unbelievable. You can look at it one of 2 ways. Like, you could either say fortunate or clutch. And the Eagles, what I like, Tone, is they have the ability, they've had this ability all year to win even when they haven't been on their A game. Like, they figure it out, whereas other teams can't quite figure it out to the level the Eagles have.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is you saw the Philadelphia Eagles play a very efficient brand of football on offense. And look, again, I look at it like this. The Cowboys threw their best shot at you. Like, Dak Prescott can't play any better than what he played. Let's just call it what it is. He can't play any better than what he did, right? And you even had to deal with a one-legged Jalen Hurts. So we're going to get into that as the show progresses. But my thing is, the Dallas Cowboys emptied the tank. They emptied the entire chamber on the Philadelphia Eagles, and they still came up short and only put up 23 points. We have a lot of questions about the defense that we're going to adjust later on. But if you would have told me the Philadelphia Eagles gave up 23 points to this Dallas Cowboys team, knowing the way they've been playing, knowing how they love to put up points on whack teams, if you would have told me the Philadelphia Eagles defense only gave up 23 points to Dak Prescott and those guys, I would take that because I trust our offense to be able to take advantage of opportunity, and that's what they did. Rob, they were by far they were perfect in the red zone. The Philadelphia Eagles literally took advantage of every opportunity that they could have on the offensive side of the ball, if you ask me.
Oh, listen, no question. I mean, as much as, and we're going to come down pretty hard, I think, on the defense in a lot of ways, but the offense didn't do them any favors late in this game. You know, the hallmark of this team, Tone, early in the year was, and we talked about it a lot, they could just end a game. They would get the ball with 7 minutes left and eat the entire clock, the entirety of the clock. They haven't had the ability to do that in a while. I mean, you think about it, like those 3 drives that the Eagles had with the ball, it was 3 3-and-outs. They went a combined 14 yards. You know, they ate no clock up, and it turned into a punt. So you're basically just turning it right back over to the Cowboys. And some of the play calling, why that deep shot? Like, why? What was the point of that? I don't understand that.
I'm with you. I'm with you 150% if that's even possible. It's 3rd and 3. You ran the ball 2 times in a row to put you in a 3rd and 3 position. It's 4 minutes and 57 seconds left. The Cowboys have all their timeouts. You get a first down or you sustain in some capacity, they had to start using those timeouts. I felt like the Philadelphia Eagles, they kind of – see, it's so funny. Play calling was damn near flawless up until that 3rd and 3. Up until that 3rd and 3, because in my humble opinion, I felt like what should have happened was you run the ball again on 3rd down, you keep the clock rolling. And then, at worst, you put yourself in a 4th and 1 situation. Last time I checked, 4th and 1 is damn near guaranteed for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I just felt like they overcooked it. They overthought themselves in that situation. And I'll be honest, that was the first moment in that second half where I said, "Oh, the Philadelphia Eagles might lose this game because of poor decision making by the coaches." And that's something that's always concerned me in the long run when it comes to the staff. The coaches, will they make the right decision when it matters most? Will they put their egos and their arrogance to the side and just take the easy way to the finish line?
Yep.
And they didn't do that.
No, they didn't. But there were a lot of, there's certainly positives. There's no doubt about that. I mean,
without a doubt. I mean, we're nitpicking here.
We are. Because that's everything we do is with the mind of, getting to the Super Bowl. But, think about what Jalen Hurts is doing right now, really banged up. And he's never going to tell you what's going on. Nick's not going to tell you. That's pretty obvious at this point. But when you saw him go down late in the second quarter and could barely, get off the field, he did come back in and, they finished it off, but then he comes back out in the 3rd.
I was scared, Rob.
It was frightening. It was frightening. When you see Marcus Mariota warming up, man, it's scary. It's time to be scared. But he comes out there and, and he engineers a couple of drives. I think the best throw catch combo of the season, that ball to Devontae is you can't drop it better in the bucket. And then Devontae makes a really good catch too, because he's well covered. I mean, that was awesome. It was just flat out awesome. I know people will say AJ Brown's catch. Yeah, AJ Brown's one-hand catch was sick.
But that was more AJ Brown than anything, in my opinion.
That was more AJ. This was a two-way, just brilliant play by these two guys, man.
Absolutely, man. Like I watched that play over and over because I think it makes the play. That third quarter was so special by the Philadelphia Eagles because they damn near dominated the entirety of it, right?
Yep.
And Jalen Hurts, you know what it reminded me of? It kind of reminded me of the whole Patrick Mahomes okey doke. You know what I'm saying? You know, the Philadelphia Eagles tweaked his ankle in the first half of that Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you think you got him dead in the water. You think you smell blood, and all of a sudden he comes back and just. That's what it reminded me of, right? Jalen Hurts tweaked that knee. They gave my man the IV. All of a sudden, he came back and put the bionic knee on. Came out, and all of a sudden, just gashed him for two touchdowns in that fourth quarter to take a double digit. I mean, in that third quarter to take a double digit league, man. Like that's what playoff football is supposed to look like. That's a franchise quarterback, a guy who doesn't lay down no matter what's going on, a guy who's willing to lay it out on the line when it matters most, and he goes out and he produces. Look, like I said, the Dallas Cowboys, they gave us their best shot. Their best shot. They can't play any better than that. I'm being told that's my honest opinion. They gave us their best shot. Their pass rush was getting home. They got hands and feet on Jalen Hurts quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, with them giving the Philadelphia Eagles their best shot and still losing the game, how do you come out of that? The only thing that you can say to yourself is as a player, okay, we were on the road, right? But the reality is the Philadelphia Eagles scored a tick above their average points per game. I believe they averaged 26, 27 points per game.
They're averaging right around 28-ish. They were right on their number.
Okay, and the Dallas Cowboys, they scored below their average.
They did.
Right?
They did.
As far as yardage and everything, they did their thing in the passing game. Tony Pollard's still not really a factor, but the reality is the Eagles did what they normally do. The Dallas Cowboys did what they normally do. And the reality is they fold on the road. They fold when it matters most. And look, Dak Prescott played a hell of a game.
Yep.
I want to listen. It's sad because if Dak Prescott wasn't a Dallas Cowboy, I would have a lot of love for Dak Prescott. If he played for any other organization, if he played for the damn Vikings, I'd be like, I like that guy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But he plays for the Cowboys. So by proxy, I have to disparage him as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
But the reality is he played a great game, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great enough. Close but no cigar.
Yes, and you got to cash in those last couple drives. There was a lot that went on, in those last couple drives.
Absolutely.
All right. The not so good, and this is real stuff, is Dallas Goedert with the forearm injury. Now, so what we're hearing, Tom Pelissaro of the NFL Network is reporting it's a fractured forearm. They're hoping to have surgery if the swelling goes down as quickly as today, which makes sense. The sooner he gets the surgery, the sooner he could come back. So the hope is this is a 4 to 6 week injury. Okay, so if that's the case, if you're looking at the timeline here, obviously you're going to be without him for this critical stretch right here, but that's okay. Like, to me, I'm already moved past that. I'm just hopeful that they can get him back by the end of the season, okay, before the playoffs start. Like, all right, so if we sit here right now, November 5th, he has the injury. Let's say December 17th. Let's say maybe you could get him back December 17th at Seattle. Even if you can't get him back then, okay, let's get him back for Christmas Day. Let him play in those last 3 games, get his legs back, his conditioning back, and then he's ready to roll in the playoffs. So if that's the case, if that's what it ends up being, I'll take it, man. I'll take it. It could have been a lot worse. This thing could be season ending. And it looks like right now they may have dodged that bullet.
You want to hear something fascinating about Dallas Goedert? And this is the same point of the season where he got hurt last year.
Yeah.
This year was week 9. Yep. Last year he got hurt in week 10. And at that moment, the Philadelphia Eagles were 8-1 at both of those junctures.
Yep.
That is so freakish when you think about it. It's almost like clockwork, and that makes me nervous again. This is why, and I'll be honest, I was one of the people that didn't understand it at first.
Yep.
But maybe Howie Roseman had some kind of foresight. This is why he probably went and got Julio Jones. Because you still give yourself another weapon, another big body, another guy who has reliable hands. Say what you want about how much gas he has left in the tank. But from a technique, from just being a pure wide receiver, Julio Jones has all the traits. The only thing that's betting against him is age and endurance. But as far as skill set, Julio Jones has a skill set that can be challenged with the best of them. But again, he's an older guy. So again, I was one of those people who didn't really understand the Julio Jones move at first. But with Dallas Goedert going down and knowing that you have him in the tuck, and I'm a Jack Stoll guy, I'm not as concerned as I would be if I was any other team because the Eagles have just a lot of depth right there, receiver right now. Right. And I mean, I trust Jack Stoll. He's never hurt the Philadelphia Eagles yet. All he's done is catch the balls that come to him. And he's a tremendous blocker. So
don't forget Alberto. Alberto can play. He's a move that they made late too. We don't know about Calcaterra. He's coming off concussion issue. He had concussion issues in college, but yeah, Stoll's solid. He's solid. He's going to do his thing. And yeah, the size thing that Julio brings to the table, especially in the red zone, could be big. This is where we could see him play almost some kind of hybrid position maybe at this point. But yeah, that's a real thing. Here's the other thing, Tone. Even beyond that, if you and I sat here before the season started, and I said to you, all right, they're 8-1 going into the bye, going into this stretch, you'd be thrilled. I would have been thrilled. I thought they would have at least 2 losses because there's always that stumble game, and the Jets were the stumble game, but there's always seems to be some other game that they would stumble on. There hasn't been. In fact, they have held the best record in the NFL for 27 consecutive weeks, 27 straight weeks in the regular season. That's unbelievable. You play 34 in 2 years now with the 17-game schedule. So 27 straight weeks with the best record in football. However they get it done, it's not always pretty. It's not always the way you would hope. You would just, hey, I'd love for them to kill teams and this and that. But somehow, some way, they seem to figure it out and get it done. That is a real testament to these coaches, the front office, and the players that they've been able to maintain like this for as long as the whole 2 seasons.
Hey, Rob, you know what's so funny? On July 14th of this year, on a Friday, I filled in for D-Gun. And really quickly, before I get this point across, I want to send a lot of love and prayers to our guy, Derek Gunn, going through some family matters right now. Sending a lot of love, a lot of prayers, a lot of hope and a lot of optimism to his way and to him and his family's way. We love you, D-Gun, and we're going to hold you down, for as long as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Listen, man, we got your back. First and foremost.
Yep. Well said.
So on July 14th, when I was covering for D-Gun on a Friday, you and I talked about the schedule, and we kind of went through it ourselves, and we discussed where were the wins, where were the losses, right? And for me, I had us beating the Patriots, beating Minnesota, beating Tampa Bay, beating Washington, beating the Rams, losing to the Jets.
Right.
I had that. So, but under different circumstances. I didn't think it would look that way. I thought Aaron Rodgers would be the reason. But nonetheless, I had us losing that game. And this is my first time looking back at this, by the way, since then. I haven't looked at this since then. So it's just funny how things come full circle. Yeah. I had us losing to Miami, but we ended up winning that game.
Yep.
And I had us beating Washington, and I had us beating Dallas. Basically, I had us being 7-2 going into the bye. We're 8-1.
Yeah.
Come on, baby. What more can you ask for? Beggars can be choosers. You feel me, Rob?
I agree. And the other thing is the bye couldn't be hitting at a better time. You think about it. Obviously, the Goddard injury is the headliner. The Kobe Dean with the foot. We don't know how serious that is. You had guys dropping like flies. Bradbury goes down at one point.
On the final drive.
Oh, my God.
And Bradbury back-to-back plays. How can that happen?
I mean, earlier in the game, Jordan Davis, like on and on and on. Now, most of the Fletcher Cox, most of those, Reddick went down at one point. Those guys all came back, thankfully, but there was a lot of that. You're right. I mean, they were literally like just throw like, all right, now you get in the slot, you get in the slot, you get in we got to try anything we can here. And I have more, I guess, understanding and leeway and leash that I'll give the defense because I know they didn't have any intent on Eli Ricks playing a major role or Josiah Scott or Josh Jobe. You're asking guys to do things that they're just not accustomed to doing, or they're not ready yet. They need seasoning, and they're being thrown in there against, grown men. So it's hard for those guys. So I get it a little bit more, but you're surviving it. When you had to make a play late, you made a play late. There's something to be said for that, even though it doesn't look like a work of art.
And those are the signs of a high caliber team. Those are the signs of a team who is capable of getting the job done under the most dire circumstances, Rob. Let's really think about this, right? The Dallas Cowboys, when they've won, their defense has either forced a turnover or scored on defense, or the special teams have scored, so on and so forth. They've been getting points from all these different places, defense, special teams, right? Not really the conventional way on offense. This game against the Eagles was the best their offense has looked all season. But my point is, the one game where your defense and your special teams can't get any points for you, you can't get it done. And I mean, this isn't the only game, because we've seen it against the Cardinals. We've seen it against the 49ers, right? When their defense and their special teams aren't scoring for them, they have a hard time putting points on the board.
Big time.
Like, it's, again, these are the marks of a team, the Philadelphia Eagles. These are the marks of a team that no matter what the circumstances, rain, sleet, or snow, they are trained to go. You got to, like, I'm willing to bet on the team like that. This is like the second. How many games have we seen the Philadelphia Eagles be down at the half? And
a ton.
It seems like they just pull off the Clark Kent suit and tie, and all of a sudden Superman comes out. It's just a different style of football that not many teams are capable of playing. This team is battle tested. You can make an argument, in my humble opinion, I think they're more prepared to win it all this year than they were last year, because everything was so perfect for them last year. This year, they've gone through trials, tribulations, ups, downs, injuries all across the board, a very imperfect defense, imperfect play calling on offense. But this team still has this culture. They have this identity. They have this aura. They have this know-how. Winning is a skill. Let's be honest about this. Winning is a skill.
Winning's a skill. And the other thing is, this team has a clutch gene. So think about it.
Yes, bingo.
You had the Blankenship tackle on Schoonmaker right at the goal line. You had 2 money sacks on consecutive plays late in the game. Then you had the big sack in the last drive. Like, Brandon Graham is a guy who's been there, done it before, in big moments. He's got the clutch gene. Reddick has the clutch gene. There's something to be said for that. It's an intangible, but it's there. Even the play that Graham makes, where he didn't make contact with him, and it's a bad play by Dak. He's got to stay in bounds. But the fact that he was right there with him forced Dak to cut that thing as tight as he could cut it, and he steps out of bounds on the 2-point conversion. That changes everything. If that's a 3-point game, Dallas is going about their business completely differently. Now, the Eagles may play their defense a little bit differently too, no doubt. But if they would have kicked the field goal. We're probably in overtime if they have that 2-point conversion, but they didn't. So there were big plays made on both sides, where the Eagles made big plays and the Cowboys didn't. And that's the difference between winning and losing a lot.
It's a game of inches. Like, what's so funny? Everything about this game of football that we love so much, Rob, came to fruition in this game, right? It was a game of inches. The ball, bouncing your way. Let's be honest about this too. We didn't talk about this yet. The Philadelphia Eagles fumbled that ball like 3 times yesterday.
Oh,
3 times.
And is luck. There was luck involved in a bunch of those.
It's sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good.
Yep.
The fortune favors the bold, man. And look, I'm gonna keep it funky. The last thing I want to do is lie to the people. I'm watching that game. First of all, every Eagles game, it doesn't matter the opponent, I'm always on the edge of my seat, because I think about guys' health. I think about so many things that can go wrong, right? Yep. So I'm always on the edge of my seat, no matter who the opponent is. Yeah. So there were plenty of moments throughout this game where I'm sitting on the edge of my seat and I'm nervous, mainly because of self-inflicted wounds on the Philadelphia Eagles side, ill-timed penalties, fumbling the ball and somehow, some way landing on it. Shout out to Tyler Steen, man. Shout out to the rookie Tyler Steen. Who had
that
an
play
game.
Is enormous. That would have been Tone. That would have went down in our memories as one of the biggest disasters ever. And it's so clumsy and klutzy of a play. But yeah, that's a huge play that he recovers that. The fact that Swift gets his own earlier is a miracle. The ball bounced right to Jalen on the
first drive.
Oh, so many times. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes good fortune is on your side, and you need to be fortunate. And that was enormous. It really was.
And still, Dallas had a chance to win the game.
Yes,
they had a chance to win the game. And when it mattered most, and this is their MO. Yeah, I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to live and die on this thing. When the rubber has to meet the road, when it's time to pay that bill, when the rent is due.
Yep.
the Dallas Cowboys always come up short.
Yeah.
And guess what, baby? The rent man, when the rent is $1,000, he ain't taking $9.99.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? And that game was all about that 1 cent, that 1% of fortune, that 1% of effort, that 1% of clutchness. That game was literally won. That game, the difference between the outcome of that game is maybe the length of a football.
No doubt.
That's insane.
The Schoonmaker play. I mean, or Dak stepping out of bounds. That's all it takes. It's amazing. It really is. It's that kind of game. It's the kind of game, if you're on the wrong side of it, I mean, you got to be just destroyed this morning. But if you're on the right side of it, man, it's survive in advance. And now you can go get healthy, rest. I mean, these guys are beaten.
Could this bye have been better placed?
No, it's
could this
perfect.
bye have been placed any better? This might have been the most perfectly placed bye I've seen throughout the season. Because sometimes they give teams byes after week 5, week 6. I'm like, come on, really?
Yep.
This bye couldn't have been placed any better. The football gods, they shine bright. They shine bright because now you buy yourself 2 weeks for Goddard to get healthy, even though he's going to be on IR most likely. You still buy yourself some time where you can not think about football and you can really figure out how you want to play this. While he's out, you can Jalen Hurts can rest that knee. All the other guys, Slay, Bradbury, they can regroup. Kevin Byard gets another opportunity to really digest the film. You know what I mean? So listen, Philadelphia Eagles fans, regardless of what the national media is doing, because I've been watching a lot of national media this morning, Robin, and then I'll let you go. Well, the narratives are, should the Cowboys be optimistic or Dak Prescott played a hell of a game.
Yeah. No, it's the Cowboys should feel great about themselves because they lost the game more than the Eagles won it. There's a lot of that. Yep.
And my thought process is, hold on, wait. Last time I checked, they lost the game.
Yes.
And they also had an opportunity to win the game.
No question.
They came up short.
Yep.
So, you know what? Listen, it's lonely at the top, right? And when you're 8-1, man, maybe it's not sexy to talk about. And you know what? Maybe I had to be comfortable with being great. Because when you're great, you're not really talked about that much. So I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe it's us.
All right.
Maybe it's us.
It probably is. All right. So we come back. We'll dive into the offense, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll dive into the defense, what they can do, how much of this can get better in certain ways, who came up big. They still had 5 sacks in the game. We'll talk about that. Cleaning up the penalties. A lot to do here. You don't want to go anywhere. Man, this was a wild one yesterday. This is one we're going to remember for a long time, the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry. That's for sure. It was a game of survival. All right, so we'll talk about that all when we get back. Don't go anywhere. But first, I want to tell you about the great folks at Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Yes, Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Been going there since I was a kid. They've been family-owned since 1985. You got Alex and the crew. I was in there. I got the chance, and maybe I'll grab the picture for you guys at some point, to do a little pizza flipping, stick it in the brick oven. It was awesome. It was fun. I had a lot of fun with those guys on Friday hanging out there. They have 20 different styles of pizza daily. They have slices to go. They have any kind of pizza that you want, specialize it your way, and they will make it. But they just don't do pizza. It's fresh pasta, it's sandwiches, it's wraps, it's wings, it's salads. The other big thing is Bravo Pizza of Havertown is also committed to the community. They have fundraisers for charities, for schools, for little leagues, where the proceeds go to those organizations. You can follow them at the Bravo Pizza of on Instagram and Facebook. They're located at 1305 Westchester Pike in the Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown, Pennsylvania. 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown. Give them a call right now, 610-446-3810, 610-446-3810, Bravo Pizza of Havertown.
I remember getting my heart broken when they lost the Super Bowl in 2004. We're big Eagles fans. We moved to South Philly because of the Eagles. When they won, we went straight to Broad Street, and everybody was going nuts over there, and it was just a memory that you'll never forget.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most, to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back, everybody. Eagles beat the Cowboys. By the way, I haven't noticed, Tone, and Tone DeShield's in for D-Gun. I haven't noticed any of our Cowboys friends in the chat. I wonder why that is. I mean, it generally, what happens is when they win, somebody kicked over the rock and then they come crawling out and we hear from them. And when they lose, it is radio silence. So I'm just curious, you know, maybe it's a coincidence that they're not around today. I wonder.
Man, Rob, let me just keep it all the way funky with you, man. The reality is, if they would have won this game, they would have been relentless. They would have been insatiable. They would have been talking about, we told y'all the Eagles were pretenders. It was only a matter of time. But guess what? Now they're trying to play the humble card. Now they're trying to pretend like, hey, it's only week 9. You know, it's okay. Back to the drawing board. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we learned a lot about ourselves this week. Hey, the Eagles got lucky with all these calls. Last time I checked, the refs called 10 penalties on both sides.
Yep.
10 and 10. 20 penalties were called. And the Philadelphia Eagles did everything possible to give you the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, you cannot take advantage of the dish that was given to you, served up nicely on the silver platter.
Yep.
So, no wonder they're MIA. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? We need this. We need to send the military police, man, because these guys are what is it? Absent without leave. You know what I'm saying? They went AWOL, but guess what? This is the sad part. Their Cowboys were left KIA, killed in action. So it's all right, man. I understand you got a funeral to attend. I'll be there right there in the rafters, waving my hanky, okay? I'll meet you at the funeral, man. I got the eulogy ready and prepared for you.
All right, so a couple things to dive into here, Tone. Let's not gloss over Jalen Hurts. All right, let's go back to this for a minute. So against the Cowboys, 17 of 23, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. Now, I understand in comparison, you know, throwing for 207 yards is not going to blow anybody away. But if you watch the game, he was highly efficient. He's doing this in a pretty severe amount of pain, despite not letting on, you know, about it. and he's still doing what he has to do. In fact, the last 2 games, 566 total yards, 7 touchdowns, no turnovers. This is a guy who's getting better and better in the pocket. You know, it wasn't just that. Like, even on that first drive, they went for it twice on 4th down. One was a tush push. The other one was a great throw to Goddard.
Dime.
I mean, a great throw. A great job by Goddard, too. But, I mean, just excellent throw. And he's getting better and better with those sort of touch balls that aren't deep shots, that aren't sort of wide open, but you got to drop it over the first level of defenders. He is just growing and growing. And it's a shame because one element of his game has kind of been taken away a little bit, minus the tush push with the knee. But he's just adapting and doing exactly what he needs to do to help his team win.
Absolutely. You know, and I think what you're speaking of, right, you know, with that touch, you know, I'll take it a step further and say the ball placement, right? His ability to put the ball exactly where his guy needs it so they can make a play, right? And again, he's just such a clutch performer. He's so dynamic on 3rd down. He's so dynamic on 4th down. Yep. And we have to really, as a football culture, right, as fans of the NFL, and I mean everyone, right, not just us, Rob, and I'm pretty sure this doesn't really apply to us, but I'm just talking to everybody in general. The NFL world has to start putting a lot more respect on Jalen Hurts' throwing ability. He can throw the ball. He can win you games, right? Now, if you want to sit here and debate, who's the greatest arm talent in the NFL? Okay, who's the most talented individual? Okay, all right. You can have those conversations, but the reality is this is the NFL. And everybody's pretty talented for the most part. Everyone has a different varying skill set that allows them to get the job done. Everyone doesn't, just how in real life, everybody doesn't drive the same car, but guess what? You still get to work on time, right? No matter what you're driving. So my point is, Jalen Hurts, he may not throw like a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or a Josh Allen or whatever. You can listen. I'm not here to debate those guys' talents. But we need to start talking about him in the same breath as a guy like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. And I always put Patrick Mahomes, he's just on God tier. That's just a different level of football player. But we had to start putting him in the category with those guys, the Lamar Jackson, so on and so forth. We have to put him in those conversations because not only does he throw the ball very well, you can literally track his progression. You can track where he's taking his game, and he wins. He wins games. Last time I checked, you don't pay quarterbacks for 500-yard performances. You pay them to win games. Organizations are paying for wins. They're not paying for stats because stats help you get paid.
Yeah.
But wins that helps the organization. That helps everyone eat. You dig what I'm saying?
No doubt. And I think the other thing you need to look at, his numbers in the pocket are awesome.
Yeah, Rob, come on.
And the notion is that he doesn't do as well from the pocket. It's sort of unscripted stuff and him taking up. Not the case. It's not. It's just false. His numbers in the pocket are very good.
It's cherry picking. People because he's a dual threat guy. People love to say, there's a ceiling on his game, or he can't do this, or he can't do that. And the reality is, last time I checked, he's winning games. He's delivering the ball efficiently. You know what's so crazy? Let me throw something at you, Rob, man, because if we're going to talk about Jalen Hurts, right, we're going to talk about this the proper way. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So over the past several weeks, let's just go back to the Rams game, right? 65.8 completion percentage. The Jets, 62%, his worst of the season, I believe. Then Miami, 74% completion percentage. Washington, 78% completion percentage. Dallas, 74% completion percentage. 2 back-to-back weeks, no interceptions thrown. 3 weeks in a row with a passer rating of over 109. The dude is playing tremendous football. And let's just talk about the career, right? Let's just talk about the progression just as a quarterback in the NFL. Year 1, only starting 4 games. 52% completion percentage. Year 2, first year as a starter, 61% completion percentage. Took his team to a 9-8 record and a playoff berth. Lost the game, but they took him to a playoff berth. 2022, 66% completion percentage. Made it to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, lost the game. Year year four in the NFL, year 3 as a starter in 2023, 68.9, nearly a 69% completion percentage, almost completing 70% of his passes. 7 out of 10 of the passes he throws gets to the destination, but he can't throw the ball. They better get the hell out of my face, RE.
It's just
they better
false.
stop playing.
Yeah, I mean, what it is, you're believing some made-up narrative, or you're looking at what he was maybe the very first year when he jumped in there, not who he is now, not when he's getting fully formed versus, when he was, in the embryonic stage, if you will. So, I mean, he's just a different guy at this point. And not to mention, like, look, everybody out there is a tough guy in this sport. Okay. They're all tough as nails. I can't believe what they put their bodies through on a daily basis. But even his own players are like, dude, we came in at halftime. He's getting an IV and, they're working on his knee, but we never had any doubts. Like, those guys feed off of that kind of stuff that he's able to do with that toughness, that grit, that determination that he brings to the table. And just being out there. Yeah, they believe in him. And that goes a long way, man. It goes a long way. And I think it's one of the reasons why you see this team have the success that they have and the great regular season record, 25-2, with this guy as the quarterback. It's not a coincidence.
Rob, let me ask you a question, right? And this may be a personal question, so stop me here if I go too far. But has there ever been a moment in your life where you had someone that was, that was your leader, or someone that maybe you looked up to, somebody that you admired or respected, and as long as they were around, as long as they were in the right mindset, as long as they were upbeat, you felt like anything was possible. You felt like you felt like no matter what, we're going to come out on the right side of this.
Oh,
right?
100%. 100%. I felt that way.
Have you ever felt that just growing up?
My parents are a good example. And my whole life, they were a great support system. But I've had buddies who, like, when stuff is hitting the fan, who I can reach out to. All right, let's figure this thing out. We're going to get this thing done and blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of those kind of people in my life. I think it takes a village, man. So, I think this team's full of them. I think they're full of them. Like, Hurts is one of those guys for sure. Look at Brandon Graham. We have been talking about how he wasn't, where's he been, blah, blah, blah. Yesterday, he makes 3 enormous plays at 35 years old. Look at Kelsey still. I mean, you have the one play where they're in each other's face, and Kelsey's just, like, there's something to be said for those guys, and I think Jalen is, even though he's 10 years younger than those guys we're talking about here, is absolutely one of those guys that you just know, all right, this dude's behind me as we're coming out of the tunnel. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. He is absolutely that guy.
Listen, in the words of the all-famous Ja Rule, I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time. You feel what I'm saying, Ari? The reality is, Brandon Graham, we've been calling for this man, BG, for the past couple weeks, man. We've been like, damn, like, we understand he's the OG in the group. Fletcher Cox called him an old ass man yesterday. But the reality is, man, when you needed it, my God, BG just came in the clutch a second and a half. You might as well say he had 2 sacks. On that, on that final drive, man. Then he finds a way to push,
enough to get Dak to step out,
or do enough to. And come on, like BG, 34-year-old, like there's no way he should have. You saw how he was hawking Dak down. That's a big man. He felt like he was carrying the ball in chain. It was crazy, but look, it was just, again, man, this offense efficient. What was your thoughts on the play calling throughout the game? Because the reality is, I felt like Brian Johnson called a hell of a game. I saw creativity in the red zone. Things got a little tricky on the final couple drives in the fourth quarter. That's what that was my only beef.
But that's my only beef.
I have no problem.
The absolute end game. Like, they figured out a way to get Gainwell involved and be effective. Like that play call on his touchdown on the first drive was beautiful. And he makes a great athletic play with the dive and all that. That was really nice. No, I think there was a lot of good design stuff that went on. I saw a little bit more motion yesterday than we generally see from them. No, I didn't. Again, I didn't like the deep throw when you were trying to milk clock late. If I'm going to hang my hat on one play that I think they should take back, I don't think they've been great in general as a team, defense and offense, with situational football this year. There's been a couple of instances, like when they threw the touchdown pass to A.J. Brown against Washington the first time.
Okay, so you mean like the closeout games? Like
yeah, like little.
That's
that's my real issue generally with the play calling. It's that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, all in all, here's the other thing. A.J. Brown yesterday became the fastest Eagle ever to 1,000 yards receiving. He's done it in 9 games now. Like, it's a very good chance this guy might get to 2,000 this year. And it's being a little bit overshadowed nationally because of what Tyreek Hill's been doing. But, the truth is, A.J. Brown's been better over the last 5 weeks than Tyreek Hill. He has. Tyreek Hill got off to a faster start. But A.J. Brown, what he's doing this year is insane. And he had a good game. He didn't go crazy, but he still had a good game yesterday. And it was good. Devontae is always a threat. He's always lurking, and he had the big touchdown catch, and he had a couple other plays that he made over there. It's a shame. Goddard, I felt like, was starting to get into a rhythm when he got hurt. And,
that was a huge that was a huge catch by him, though. I mean,
yeah, run and
huge.
Catch. Yep. So that's tough. And if you're just jumping on with us, Goddard's got a fractured forearm. They're hoping to have surgery today. They're hoping it's only 4 to 6 weeks. If that's the case, to me, that's best case. Like, if that's what it is, I'm okay. I'm okay if that's what it is, because I was thinking done for the year. So that's
man. It's disheartening. We talked about it in the first segment. This is the same point in the season where he got hurt last year. I think last year I believe it was like a shoulder or like a collarbone, something like that.
Collarbone, yeah, clavicle.
Yeah. And then this season it's the forearm, man. He's just a. Let's be honest, man. I felt like that cowboy dude kind of jerked his arm a little bit, but it's it is what it is. But the reality is, man, the way this team is built right now, and look, the schedule only gets harder, right? But you're able to relax, collect yourself, because this I would hate to play the Chiefs after this week, because this is the kind of game that takes a lot out of you, just emotionally.
The Germany game, you're saying, yeah. Or the Eagles game. The Eagles game.
Well, the Eagles game. Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, that game, like the Eagles playing the Cowboys this week, and then if they had to play KC the following week, right? Man, it's just I would not be as optimistic because of what this game required.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like this game took so much. It took so much out of us. We weren't even on the field.
They have to. To a man, they rarely ever say things like this, but almost every one of them was like, "Dude, this bye couldn't come at a better time." Like, even Jalen said it. Jalen doesn't give an inch. He doesn't flinch, when talking about being tired or being hurt or any of that. And he even, like, selfishly, like Slay said, this can't come soon enough. Look, Tone, you got Jalen who's hurt, who's still a young guy. I'm not putting him in the same category with the older guys, but he's hurt. You got Slay in his 30s, Bradbury in his 30s, Fletcher Cox in his 30s, Brandon Graham in his 30s, Lane Johnson in his 30s, Kelsey in his
Kevin Byard in his 30s.
Kevin Byard. You got some older cats here who need the rest. They need it, man. So this is a perfect time. And Sirianni's really good with just get away from it, go heal up, get away from football. He knows how to take care of his guys. He does. He's very good at that. And their sports science and all that stuff that they do. So I think you're going to see a rejuvenated, refreshed team. And the other big part is the coaches will stay, locked in and huddled up and try to fix some of this stuff. I feel like on the offensive side, they haven't fully clicked all year, but they can figure this out. The biggest thing is, Tone, they got to get the running game going. And the running game of late hasn't been good enough. Like yesterday's a good example of what you've been getting lately. 33 rushes, 109 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. It's not popping the same way with Swift. I know Boston Scott was out for personal reasons yesterday. Penny got 1 carry and Gainwell got a little bit of touches. But they have to, for the simple reason of, I want them to be able to finish games with their running game and not give the ball back to the opposing team like we saw earlier in the year.
Yeah, and that's kind of this team's bread and butter, right? Typically, they're really good at putting points up, and then they're really good at kind of salting the game away with their running game. And we haven't really been able to see it, because the reality is, the Philadelphia Eagles last year, you probably would have never, the Cowboys probably would have never saw that ball again. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think this goes back to that bye week. You know what I mean? I think this offensive line definitely needs to regroup. Again, guys like Kelsey and Lane, those boys, man, they definitely need some TLC, some tender love and care, man. But you're right though, ultimately. And another thing, man, this running game is, when Jalen Hurts is not as explosive as we're accustomed to seeing him be, the running game takes a hit. You know, the Eagles don't have a traditional running game. That's the unfortunate reality. But if they want to extend Jalen Hurts' career, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
They need to find a way to cultivate a traditional running game. Outside of those two outlier games versus Minnesota and Tampa Bay, I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles, their run game has been pretty league average. So I think they definitely need to go back to the drawing board and figure out, especially after this bye, what's going to be their approach going forward. Because look, every game takes on its own identity, complexion, and you got to do what it takes to win the game. And that's what makes the Philadelphia Eagles special, regardless if it goes against their traditional way of thinking, regardless if it goes against the game plan or what they accounted for, regardless of anything. They have this ability to morph and mold themselves to the moment. And not many teams are capable of doing that. And I think that's where a lot of teams, that trait can make or break a lot of teams. Think about Miami, right? When certain things are not happening, they can't execute. The Dallas Cowboys, when certain things aren't happening, they can't win the game.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? There's only maybe a handful of teams that can literally morph to the moment, regardless if, perfect example, Travis Kelce was a no-show in Germany. What did Patrick Mahomes do? He found a way to cultivate some offense in a way.
Yeah.
So again, that sliver is what separates the Super Bowl contenders from just playoff contenders. Teams that can just really change the fabric of their identity and mold themselves to the situation.
I agree with you. And what you also see with the teams like that, like for example, Kansas City, you bring up Kansas City. Their offense hasn't been nearly as good as it was last year. Their defense has stepped up, right? The Eagles,
Kansas City's defense is top 5. They're good.
They're really good. What seems to happen with the Eagles is it's game to game, but in game, somebody figures out a way to make a play. Somebody figures out a way to step up for them. And that is something that's absolutely been huge for them for sure. Look, the other thing is you're going to have to figure out the tight end situation, whether it's Stahl, Calcaterra, Albert O, whatever, utilizing, maybe Julio in some of those situations. I like what they did on the A.J. Brown touchdown. That was a Goddard play. That they ran.
Good pull by you. Great pull by you. That was a hell of a play call.
Yeah. And that to me, that's great. Adapt, overcome, figure it out, do what you got to do. And that's also the beauty of having a guy who's as big as AJ is. You're not losing a lot in that play, but that was textbook Goddard there, and great job out of Brian Johnson.
Yeah, and I definitely want to give Brian Johnson his flowers, man. Over the past few weeks, Brian Johnson has been calling some good football games, man. And you're seeing this team getting better and better in the red zone. And another thing that we didn't really touch on, regardless of what actually happened, the Eagles didn't turn the ball over in that game.
No, they
they did it. Regardless of what may have happened,
yes,
because we saw some opportunities that kind of went in our favor.
Well, look, if there's two things you want to just sort of take general points of view, they absolutely, and you're right, they didn't yesterday, but they absolutely have to clean that part of it up, right?
Yes.
For the second half. That's got to be cleaned up. It looks like they're starting to get there in the red zone in terms of capitalizing. It was good again yesterday, right? They were better the week before against Washington. Right, and it was good yesterday. So they're getting better there. I'll tell you what they're excellent at, Tone. They're an excellent third down conversion team.
Absolutely.
And fourth down, for the most part, whether it's a tush push or like the throw to Goddard, whatever, they're very good at third and fourth down conversion rate. And that's like when coaches point to things, they point to turnovers, they'll point to conversions, they'll point to getting off the field. So not all of those things. They got to get better at getting off the field. But a lot of those things, the Eagles are starting to trend in the right direction that winning football teams do.
Hey, listen, man, I always harken back to that moment in that Miami game where Jalen Hurts, I think it was like 4th and 6 or 4th and 7, I can't remember. They dropped back. Jalen Hurts dropped back. He runs, he veers off to the right. He finds A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown gets him down to the 1-yard line. And then Jalen Hurts, tush puts, brother shoves it in.
Yeah.
He gets back to the sideline. Nick Sirianni says, "That's why I trust you. That's why I trust you." Hurts looked at him and said, "You should."
in typical Hurts,
baby.
Typical Hurts fashion. Yeah,
Come
where
on,
he's
man.
just
like Rob. Has there ever been a quarterback? And you've been a fan of this team for a long time.
Yeah.
Has there been a quarterback that's played for this organization in your lifetime that you can remember that's giving you this level of confidence? And when I say confidence, like I'm talking about across the board, no matter the situation, no matter the score, just this guy that you just you
he's
say
a
yourself,
rock. He's a pillar.
He's a rock in an ocean. You feel me? Has there ever been a guy who's giving you this level of confidence?
I'll tell you, the first quarterback I remember was Jaworski, and I he was really good, but I can't say I felt like this with him. And then it was really Randall after that. Randall was spectacular at times, but there were times where, he kind of would fall off. Then we went through a Donovan, and then it was sort of like Vic and no, not really, man. Honestly, like even when like Wentz was playing his best in 17 before he got hurt, I felt pretty good about him. I'm not going to lie, but it was so short-lived. Like, I just feel like it's much more sustainable long-term with Jalen Hurts than really anybody else. No, to answer your question, no, I've never seen a guy built like wired like this. I've never seen a guy so singularly driven and almost robotic, in his responses to things. That he's different, man. He's really one of one in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know how he is the way he is. I give him props for it, but man, is that dude he's just different. He's just different.
Man, just cold-blooded, a stabilizing force, man. Like that dude is like a heart surgeon. He's like a neurosurgeon out there, just calm, cool.
You have to have that. Yeah, he's like a steady hand, man. Like you're in an old-fashioned gunfight. You got to have that guy who's got like no heartbeat, and there's no nerve, and that's him.
Yeah, man. He's like that surgeon in the room where he says, "Play my classical music," and he's just an orchestra out there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, like again, there have been games where we've seen this team down by double digits, down at the half, and somehow, some way, he does his job, right? And this is what kind of kills me, right? People love to nitpick his game because they can't nitpick the person. You know what I'm saying? I firmly believe that they love to nitpick his game. Every time you talk about Jalen Hurts or try to big up him, right? You know what they say? Well, he's not these guys. He's not that guy. It's like, well, we're talking about this guy. We're not talking about those guys. You know what I'm saying?
I think, go ahead.
No, yeah. I basically just going to, reiterate the fact that, the reality is the dude is productive.
Yep.
He wins games. He's somebody that you want leading your organization, your franchise.
I agree.
And he's just a clutch performer. There's some people in this league that you can't quantify what they provide. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to talk about how many yards a guy throws. It's easy to talk about all those metrics, but you can't put a number on what Jalen Hurts provides. And what he provides is something that helps you win games.
What I always say is he's a scorer, not a shooter. He's not going to be this pretty guy. Yeah, he's not like Klay Thompson, just the jump shot's beautiful and all that. He's AI. He figures out a way to score and get it done any way possible. The other thing that he's got that is just so important at that position is he has the ability to forget about a bad play and move on. It doesn't linger with him. And that's I think being taught well by his dad and those kind of things, and Saban and everybody else he had. But it's also him. He can just put it aside. He like a great example is the Super Bowl when he fumbled. He came right back and scored. That would have put some people in a shell that they would have never recovered from. So I think that's also a big part of this thing. He's mentally tough, which is good. It's not always the prettiest, but he figures it out and how to get it done. And that's huge. I mean, it is so big on this stage. All right, let's come back and talk about the defense, Tone, because that's an area where there's a little more legitimate concern here. Yes, and yes. So we're going to get into that, but they also did come up big, from a pressure standpoint too, with some sacks and whatnot. But we'll delve into that. We will do a lot of NFL later too. We'll look at some big news with the Giants and what's been a nightmare season for them, which we'll get into. The Commanders yesterday, some guys really stepping up and having spectacular games, individual games. What teams are trending the right direction? What teams are trending the wrong direction? We'll look at the picture, the playoff picture right now in the NFC. And how things set up, because that win to put the Eagles 2.5 games up on the Cowboys going into this week's action with the Cowboys playing and the Eagles off, man, is that enormous. We'll get into all that when we come back. You don't want to go anywhere. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube, Network. I want to tell you about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group right now, because knowing who to trust with your finances, it's a challenge. Finding the right person is a challenge. You're going to hear a lot of different things from a lot of different people, but I'm telling you right now, I entrusted my hard-earned work with Jim, and man, I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Whether it's retirement planning, your 401k review, insurance review, you're trying to get employee benefits off the ground for your business, that's another resource that Jim can help you with. I personally have entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollover with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You could also email him as well, Murray, Murray, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim@principal.com.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We're back. Yes, we are. That is Tony Shields in for Derek Gunn today. I am Rob Ellis, hanging out with you guys on a fun Monday as the Eagles beat the Cowboys 28-23.
Absolutely.
Yes, move up to 8-1. All right, Tone. So let's dig into a couple things. The other injury, we didn't even talk about this yet. Nakobe Dean goes down with a foot injury and left the game. It's a shame he had a sack, earlier in the game, but you remember earlier in the year he was on the IR with a foot injury also. So we don't know the status of that. It's been up and down for him. I think he's had a tough time in pass coverage. He's shown you he's got that speed, that sideline to sideline speed, that lateral speed. But it's been a growth year so far, as you would expect for a guy getting playing time really for the first year. He played almost strictly special teams last year anyway. He goes down with another foot injury, and this also kind of feeds into what one of the concerns with him coming out was, can he stay healthy? Would he be able to hold up with that frame? Because he's not the biggest guy in the world. But that's another one to keep your eye on because he's already had that same injury, it seems like.
Yeah. Look, I was one of those. I like Nakobe Dean, right? And I was happy with the draft pick. I was happy with all that, right? And he was somebody that I felt like could potentially take over as being one of the better linebackers on his team at some point in his career. Obviously, he didn't play at all last year on defense. We saw him in very, very, very short spurts. And then this season, he goes out there week 1. He gets hurt, and the game's not even over yet. We actually see what Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham can do together, and all of a sudden we see this linebacker core starting to look very serviceable. And then he comes back, and then all of a sudden we're kind of regressing at that position again. So I don't want to say that, I told you so, but we spoke about the fact that he was a smaller dude, and this wasn't really a conversation about his talent. He's a talented young man.
Yeah.
But we had questions about, can he hold up? And we had questions about if the Philadelphia Eagles are putting too much responsibility on his shoulders too soon. And we had talks about his ability in pass coverage. And all those things that we had concerns about are actually rearing their head. It's unfortunate that the young man is hurt, and I don't wish injury on anybody. The sad reality is Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham are better for what the Philadelphia Eagles need right now.
Yeah. Yeah. At this juncture in his career, that's the truth.
At this juncture.
Yeah. And we just don't know. Again, we get any kind of update, we'll pass it along for sure as far as that goes. But I mean, this is the portion where we keep it real. You watch what happened in that secondary yesterday, and you watch CeeDee Lamb, do his thing and go for 11 for a, $191 and 17.4 yards per catch. And it wasn't just him. It was Jake Ferguson. It was a lot of different guys.
In other words, guys who were taking advantage of the slot in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb and Ferguson were eating the entire middle of the field up, and who was primarily in there. So
yeah, that's where it's happening. That's where the attack is from the other teams. That's where everybody knows that they can beat the Eagles at their most. And I'll tell you, I hope it's just that he's kind of run down and beat up, and hopefully he didn't do anything on his knee on that pass interference at the very end. But it was a really rough day for Bradbury. I mean, a really rough day. So again, you're going to get Roby back, which should kind of settle things down a little bit. You could plug him into the slot. We know the outside guys are Bradbury and Slay. This allows you to not have to use guys who are safeties, quite frankly, like Sidney Brown in the slot. But the other thing you're seeing is, and this is just inevitable, I hate to say it, hopefully by the end of the year, it's almost like they've experienced enough where they're not going to bite on some of the same stuff. But Eli Ricks is getting killed. They're targeting these guys, and it's smart by the opposing teams, but it's not just him. There's a lot of guys playing either out of position or with very little experience.
Yeah, Eli Ricks, he's not a slot corner. That's not where his skills are better suited. He's more so a boundary corner. Sidney Brown. It's so funny. Last week on the National Football Show, Sills asked me who would I rather see out there, Eli Ricks or Sidney Brown, and I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe I'll take Sidney Brown, the more physical guy. Maybe he can kind of lay the wood, and maybe he'll get physical with some of these Cowboys receivers, right? And we saw both of them out there, and neither of them was serviceable in any way.
No,
they're both very raw prospects. They're both talented individuals. Play the game with confidence, but they're very, very raw. And it just so happened that the matchups were not in their favor, especially with CeeDee Lamb doing most of his damage throughout his career in the slot. It's so funny. CeeDee Lamb had an amazing game. Got to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely.
Right? Put up a lot of yards.
Yeah.
But I'm still not one of those guys who are willing to call CeeDee Lamb a true number one, because he can only really eat consistently in the slot.
Right.
And you know what I mean? That's just where I am. You could put A.J. Brown anywhere on the field. You could put Terry McLaurin anywhere on the field. Stephon Diggs anywhere. Justin Jefferson anywhere. Devontae Adams anywhere. CeeDee Lamb, he's not really consistent on the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to give credit to the Dallas Cowboys for understanding their personnel and putting their personnel in a situation where they can constantly hurt defenses.
Yeah.
And I respect what CeeDee Lamb's done. I think CeeDee Lamb is a top 10 receiver in this league for sure, but I don't think he's even sniffing the caliber of A.J. Brown and those guys. But again,
no, he's not. He's not there. I mean, I would agree. He's really good, but I don't think he's at that level. But
yeah. Yeah, and it's Eagles. Let's be honest. This Eagles pass defense has made a lot of people look good throughout the year. So
I mean, it's not good. I mean, fortunately, so there's two things that have really emerged, about the Eagles defense. One on a positive note, they're very good against the run, and I felt like that continued yesterday. They kept that up. Dallas didn't really hurt them on the ground in that game. And you look at it, they're still the number one team by a pretty good margin. They're giving up 66 yards per game on the ground. That's excellent. The next closest team is the Lions at 76. So kudos. It's a really tough team to deal with in the interior, especially. And Tone, they are right now 29th against the pass. They're giving up 257 per game in the air. The only teams worse are the Chargers, the Bucks, and the Jaguars. That's it. Like, the Eagles are giving up more in the air per game than the Bears, than the Commanders, than the Broncos, who got off to that terrible start, than the Arizona Cardinals. You get the gist of this thing. Like, it's a big problem.
Then Carolina, like, man,
Carolina, pitiful. Oh my God,
they're not a good team, but their defense, you can't really get too much in the air on them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. New Orleans and even Green Bay has a top 10 pass defense. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
and I don't know if it's this is the part where I kind of get stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I look at the back end of the defense and I say, okay, I understand you have some older guys back there, but you have guys who are savvy, been in this league for a long time, played the game with a lot of intellect. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Kevin Byard. You have a young guy in Reed Blankenship who's coming along slowly but surely. You've been very inconsistent in the slot because Avonte Maddox keeps getting hurt year after year, and you're constantly trying to shuffle that position and figure out what's what. Mm-hmm. I firmly feel like if these linebackers were better, the pass defense wouldn't be nowhere near as bad as it is.
Yeah,
it's insane to me, right? I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles have invested properly in that position in terms of what they want from the position. I think they've just been finding guys that can do the job serviceably and not really thinking about what they actually need there. They need some pass coverage linebackers, guys that can hang with tight ends, right? That's what they need at that position, because the reality is you depend on your defensive line to stop the run and the other guys to fill in the gaps. So your linebackers don't have to be tremendous run stoppers. What you need them to be is tremendous pass defenders.
Yeah,
and
correct. Yeah, because you're so good up front.
They lack. Yeah, you're so good up front, right? Like, that's how, if you're going to sacrifice run defending linebacker for a pass defending linebacker, and your run defenders is your defensive line, and like that's the mindset. But it's they haven't really, in my opinion, done justice by that position, man. I don't know if it's scouting. I don't know if it's understanding the personnel, but
I think some of it is money allotment. They don't want to pay a lot of money to that position. They would rather, look, we know their priority spending is quarterback, tackle position on the offensive side, receiver. And then it's not running back. We know that clearly. And then you go to the defensive side, it's edge. And this is not that different from what most teams in the NFL do, but it's edge, it's defensive tackle, it's corners. What's left there? Your linebackers aren't being paid a ton. Your safeties, I mean, Byard's making pretty good coin, but that wasn't a contract that the Eagles signed. So unfortunately, what happens is really good linebacking play kind of slips through the cracks. Last year was sort of an anomaly. Like, they had Edwards, Kaiser White kind of cooled off at the end of the year, but they had better linebacker play than they usually have last year.
Yeah, when it comes to positional spending in terms of this year and the percentage of the cap, the offensive line accounts for 17.9% of the Philadelphia Eagles cap in 2023.
Yeah.
The defensive line accounts for 15.6% of the cap. The secondary accounts for 12.5% of the cap. Linebackers only account for 5.6% of the cap. And that's only $13 million between 6 guys. So you're basically spending about $2 million per guy at the linebacker position. That's cheap.
It's really low. Yeah, I mean, I would venture a guess what the league minimum is for veterans, like those guys, is it's not that further down. They're paying them a little bit more than they absolutely minimally have to pay. Yeah, that's what it's like.
Exactly. And again, the two positions that the Eagles don't prioritize, linebacker and running back, They're outside of special teams. They're two of the lowest percentages. They take up two of the lower percentages of the cap. Running back only takes up 2.5% of the cap. That's
right.
$6 million. That's $6 million between 4 players.
Yeah, Tina's right. They miss that. They do miss a guy like TJ Edwards. There's no denying that. I mean, they just don't. I mean, they do. I mean, it's clear how much they miss him. And they were hoping that Kobe Dean would be that guy. He's either been hurt or not ready yet, for the most part. And I will say this. I thought Zach Cunningham played a really good game yesterday. I'll give him some props. Morrow, those guys have been fine considering they basically cut Morrow, brought him back. Zach Cunningham was on the street and they grabbed him up. Like they've kind of been stabilizers. You want more than just stabilizers. You want some guys who are going to make some plays sometimes. And it's not there right now. And it's all exacerbated by some of the issues on the back end too, so look, if there's 2 things that are going to bite them, Tone, it's going to be turnovers. Well, you might maybe red zone, but I think that's gotten better. It's going to be turnovers and it's going to be the pass defense. That's it.
And that's why, because look, there's no perfect team, right? Everyone has chinks in the armor.
Yeah.
So what you have to do as a team, as an organization, as a coaching staff, you have to do everything you possibly can to mitigate your limitations by not making certain mistakes, right? Yeah. So, for example, if your pass defense isn't good, and also you're not converting in the red zone, and then you couple that with turnovers, those three categories together can mix for a very terrible cocktail. It can be a Molotov to your entire game plan if you're not converting in the red zone, if you're turning the ball over. Let's really think about it step by step, right? If I'm in offense and I'm driving, I get to the red zone. I don't put up any points. I settle for 3. Now, okay, the other team gets the ball. They drive, they're passing down the field. We can't stop them. They score 7. And then you get the ball back. You're down 7-3. You're driving. Oh, you turn the ball over at midfield. Then you give the opposing team great field position at midfield, and your pass defense sucks. Now you're down 14-3. So you see how those things work in concert.
It's the ultimate team game. It is.
Exactly. So you have to do what you can. That's why if the Eagles can convert in the red zone, which is what they did against the Dallas Cowboys. If they cannot turn the ball over, which is what they did against the Dallas Cowboys, right? Pass defense still was terrible. They still won the game. So you see how you have to do. You can't check every box, but if you check the right ones, you can still win the game.
That's why they value pass rush so much. So what happened? All right. So here's what happens. So you go to that let's just take the last couple of drives where the offense wasn't doing you any favors. They were kind of getting right off the field, as we talked about a little bit earlier. But, that last drive, you get an absolutely clutch sweat sack, which was really, really big on that last drive. Go back to the drive before that. You had back-to-back sacks by Jalen Carter and Brandon Graham, right? Which kind of nullifies that, and it turns into a whole thing, whatever. They turn it over on downs. You don't get those sacks. You don't get the pressure that Brandon Graham had on the 2-point conversion attempt by Dak. You lose. So that's why, despite 374 passing yards, despite all the things we're talking about here that are concerning, that's how you win. It doesn't mean that's always going to be the case. You got to be better. Like, this is an extreme. When you give up 374 yards in the air and you win, it's an extreme, and thankfully, the Cowboys kind of shot themselves in the foot. I mean, the Eagles also helped them shoot themselves in the foot. Again, last drive, 1st and goal at the 6, 27 seconds left. False start, that's on them. Sack, that's on them. Incompletion, on them. Delay a game, on them. And then the pass is short of the goal line. Did the Eagles have something to do with that? Of course they did. But, that's some of that is the Cowboys shooting themselves in the foot. Some of that is the Eagles putting pressure on the Cowboys. But we know, again, we look at everything like, okay, what happened in this game? Bottom line is they won the game. But we also both have everybody does, most Eagles fans have a little eye ahead, like, okay, so how does this look going forward? Now, let me just pick up on that for a minute. We know the schedule coming up is really, really hard. All right. We know Kansas City is going to be really hard playing there on a Monday night. It's going to be crazy and all that. Good thing is both teams are for both sides, they're going to be very well rested. Okay. 15 days, in fact. Now, Buffalo, who we'll talk about in a little bit, is not nearly as good or consistent, in some part because of injuries and just other parts because they haven't played as well. Maybe that game at home against Buffalo isn't going to be as hard as we thought, right? Niners, my guess is the Niners are going to get their act together and play better than the 3 straight losses. I think we got to kind of wait and see there. I think that's going to be a tough game no matter what. The game at Dallas is going to be tough. Whatever Seattle is, and they looked terrible yesterday, the Eagles never win there, it feels like. So that is going to, I think that's definitely going to be a tough game. But then once you get out of that, it's 2 New Yorks and an Arizona, which, both teams are terrible. If you come out of this stretch, the Kansas City, Buffalo, San Fran, Dallas, Seattle. Okay, so that's 5 games. Come out of that 3-2, you very well could end up being 14-3 again, if you care to win any of those last games. Now, you might have it wrapped up where you don't have to play. Who cares? You lose. Who cares if you have it wrapped up? But it still ends up being an unbelievable. You could be 13-4, and I think that's probably going to be enough. The only thing that worries me a little bit, Tone. All right, so let me just real quick give you Detroit, what they're looking at here.
They're not getting talked about enough. They're right there in the mix.
Well, and listen to this schedule that they have, right? They're off this week. They're at the Chargers. That's a kind of tough game, but we know the Chargers are all over the place and inconsistent. But after that, they're home against the Bears. They're home against the Packers. They're at New Orleans. They're at Chicago, home against Denver, at Minnesota, at Dallas, home against Minnesota. Like, that is a cakewalk of a schedule. So they're going to be in contention, in my opinion, for the number 1 seed. They are. They're going to be right there.
I think, you bring up some great points about Detroit, right? They still have to play the Vikings twice.
Right.
And they got the Saints and the Packers, right? I'm
Vikings
not really
have
worried
shown
about
a lot of heart, by the way. They've shown a lot of heart.
If I'm being honest with you, the Detroit Lions, as good as they are, they've had moments where they've kind of, like that Ravens game, and I understand the Ravens are really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
But 38-6 is kind of like, whoa. But regardless, I'm looking at this final stretch for them. I think they split with Minnesota, honestly. Yeah. I think they split there. I think the Cowboys get them at the end. Look, man, say what you want about Denver, and I think Denver can maybe eke that out. It's like, because Detroit is still an unfinished product and they're still learning how to win consistently, I think they can very well drop a Saints matchup. They can drop Broncos matchup.
Broncos
they can split with the Vikings.
Quietly kind of figured it out a little bit. They're playing much better football. And if you look at Russell Wilson's numbers, let me give you his numbers real quick, because I was looking at this today. Mm-hmm. So as much as I think we just assume like he's been awful like he was last year, right. He hasn't been. They started off terribly as a team, no doubt. But, he's got 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's completing 66% of his passes. He's got 1,600 yards passing, a 101.7 passer rating, and he's got 200 yards rushing. I'm not telling you he's the Russell Wilson peak Seattle guy, but he's bounced back from how bad it was last year.
Yeah. I wouldn't consider him a liability at this point. I just look at them as a team that's, I don't know. They're talented. It's weird. They're kind of like the Chargers. They're talented, but something's off there. You know what I mean? So, again, I think, because I'm looking at the standings right now, right? Let me just double back to these standings. Looking at the standings right now, and I'm not looking at it from the playoff perspective. I'm looking at just the standings straight up. You got Eagles 8-1. You got Lions 6-2, 49ers 5-3, Seattle 5-3, Cowboys 5-3, New Orleans Saints 5-4. Believe it or not, and you also got the Vikings 5-4.
Yep.
Like, who's to say Seattle won't drop another one? Who's to say the 49ers or the Lions won't? Like, I just feel like this is why being 8-1 and winning this game is so important for the Eagles, because you put yourself in a position where you have some slight room for error.
Yes.
You have some slight room for error.
You do. And that's why it's so big, Tone, to get to 8-1 going into that stretch. That's why it was so
absolutely
critical.
And Buffalo looks very, very beatable right now.
All over the place.
Who else do we have here? 49ers look beatable, in my opinion. I think that they may be healthier by then. Who knows? Seattle looks beatable, even though we don't really do well on the road there. I think this is a different Eagles team, man. We talked about it last year when we went to Arizona, right? When we played Kyler Murray and those boys. We didn't really win in Arizona. That wasn't something that happened for us. But somehow, some way, we got the win. Was it pretty? It wasn't the prettiest game at all. But it still got done. So I look at this, it's with and this goes back to how I feel about Jalen Hurts. With him,
right?
I look at every game as winnable, no matter where they are.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? And I never felt this way at any point, maybe outside of that 2017 season with Carson Wentz. But, and maybe this is me just being biased or whatever. I don't know. But Jalen Hurts, he approaches the game in such a way that you have no choice but to respect his game, and you have no choice but to think he can win it. They're so good situationally in third and fourth down, man. You can win a lot of games being great on third and fourth down and having the offensive line and the defensive line that they do.
Yeah, I think just Hurts, but it's more of a team thing for me. Like, there isn't a game you go in feeling like the Eagles don't have a chance. Like, I'm pretty sure if here's my guess. I haven't even looked that far ahead. There probably aren't lines out for that far ahead. But I think the Eagles will be the underdog against Kansas City at Kansas City, which
I think so. It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Yeah. I think they will. I think that at home they'll be favored against Buffalo. They'll be favored against San Fran. They'll probably be an underdog at Dallas, and they could be an underdog at Seattle. So you could have 3 games.
I disagree right there. I think they may be favored against Seattle. Even though they're on the road, I think they may be slightly favored.
I think it
not
depends
by much.
what Seattle
not by much.
does the next couple of weeks. I think it depends on how they look. But it could be, Tone. I mean, it could go either way. If Seattle continues to, they look bad yesterday. If they trend the wrong way, we'll go into it in a minute because Geno's struggling right now. But if they're trending wrong, then yeah, absolutely. But I think the two, and again, unless Dallas really falls off, which I don't see, I think Dallas plays. I think the Giants this upcoming week, they're going to kill them. But they'll be underdogs against Dallas and KC for sure.
Yep. And when we go to the next segment, I have a question for you that I want you to think on, and we'll answer it in the final segment. I mean, not final, but the next segment here, because we're going to talk about the rest of the NFC East and the rest of the NFL. But we're at that point in the season where I feel like a lot of teams are beginning to separate themselves, right?
Yes.
Separating the Super Bowl contenders from just the playoff teams. I'm not talking about the bottom feeders right now.
No, I know
the Super Bowl teams from just playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to sit with that and tell me who do you think has legitimately separated themselves from everyone else in terms of Super Bowl contention versus just being a playoff contender.
All right, let's dig into all those things when we come back. We'll keep it rolling with the Eagles and the NFL discussion on this Victory Monday. He is Tone DeShields in for D Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. All right, let's tell you about Pro Action Restoration. You have a home, you have a business, you've experienced the pain, the inconvenience of fire, smoke, mold damage to your property. You're not really sure who to turn to. I have the folks that you can turn to. That's Pro Action Restoration. They're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. The beauty is you have something happen at night. You have something happen crazy, on a holiday, a weekend, whatever, a Sunday. You're not really sure who to turn to. Well, they're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. I can attest to this because I reached out to them on a Saturday. And they came out to my parents' house. They fixed the problem. It was really a relief in a lot of ways. Pro Action Restoration is licensed, bonded, fully insured, and they've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We are back. Yes, we are. Rob Ellis, Tone the Shields. Tone's in for Gunner today. Hope you're doing well out there. Happy Monday, everybody. I think it makes Mondays a little bit easier when the Eagles get a win, especially get a little more pep in your step when it's the Cowboys. That much is for sure. All right. So I referenced this earlier, Tone. I was at my place, Bravo Pizza of Havertown, and I got a spin behind the counter, man. I jumped back there and took care of some business here.
First and foremost, I need to know where and how and when are you burning these calories? Because you find yourself there every damn week. And look, I'm not mad at you. I'm a pizza. I love pizza, man.
Yeah,
I love pizza. I love pizza. I'm a Philly guy through and through. Pizza, cheese, steak, salt, pretzels, water ice. I'm all in.
You gotta be dying in Texas, right? Is there?
I haven't had a cheesesteak since Philly. I'm really.
Dude. And you're right. It's the right move because you can't trust them elsewhere. You can't trust them. So here I was Friday night doing my thing with the pizzas. I was spinning, man. I was doing everything. So I jumped in there and got it done. And good work out of Alex and the crew, letting me jump behind the counter there and do a little something on a Friday night. So it was fun, man. We had a good time. But it's always fun. I love Bravo. The people there are great. They really are. So
yeah, man. So wait, you said your favorite pizza is what the
I like the upside down. The grandma is the upside down. Yeah.
So explain that to me, right? What exactly? How is it?
Sauce is on top, the cheese is on the bottom, basically. That makes sense.
Interesting. Now,
yes.
Yeah, it does. But does it taste any different?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's if you see, I love good cheese. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, me too.
But I like it. I like the sauce on the top. It gives it more of a flavor to it, and it gives you more kind of a square pizza sort of sense. Like I love the round too, as you see right there. I'm doing my thing, but. Yeah, either way, man. Either way, it's good. Look, to me, there's very little bad. I'm not a pizza snob. Even mediocre pizza to me is good pizza. That's the way I am. But you can't screw around with a cheesesteak. You can't fall under the trap of being out of Philadelphia area and going to a place that says a Philly cheesesteak, or You know it's bad when it says steak and cheese. Don't get it.
Yes.
Don't
Those
get
two
it
things.
anywhere else.
Never trust it when it says steak and cheese.
Thank you.
Never trust it when on their establishment they call it a Philly cheesesteak.
Yes.
Never trust it because A, you're not in Philly.
Nope.
2, I doubt people even order it in the first. See, the bar is so high for me. But you brought up a good point about the pizza thing, right?
Yeah, you can take that down, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah.
Enough of me.
I'm definitely a pizza guy. Now, real quick before we get back into the sports topics.
Yeah.
Are you a thick crust guy or a thin crust guy?
I'm a thin crust guy. I
Me
like
too.
the thin.
I'm a
Oh, so
thin
I
crust
went
guy.
to Chicago, and I love Chicago. It's a great town, but they're famous. Chicago and Detroit are famous for the thick crust pizza. Okay, that's their specialties. They also do it. It's a big Midwest thing. Like in Indianapolis, they have it as well. Okay, so I'm like, all right, I got to try it, even though it's not really my cup of tea. I got to try it. There's places around here that make it as well. I won't name who it is, but which I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm a thin crust guy. I like my pizza. I like my pizza with a crunch, I like being able to hear.
Man.
If a pizza's too doughy, I can't eat it.
I agree with you. And the cheese is too runny if it's not cooked properly.
The cheese falls right off the slice when you
Yeah,
pull
it
it.
falls
from the
off.
restaurant.
You know it's not good when you're lifting your slice and the whole cheese just comes. You're like, come on, man, what are we doing here? But
Exactly.
yeah, I'm the same way. I like it thin. I like it little. Not I would say well done, but just cooked the right way.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
tell them well done just to be safe. I always say well done just to be safe, man.
Yeah, you
because-
can't go wrong getting it well done. Make no mistake. But all day, every day. So when I was in Chicago, I'm like, and you say that they're all insulted, man. I'm like, it's just not my, and it fills you like after one slice, I feel like I ate like a loaf of bread. I'm like, ugh, So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm thin all day long.
Same here.
Yep. All right. So a couple things around the NFL. Let's start with the NFC East. Giants have lost Daniel Jones for the rest of the season. Torn ACL.
So it's
This is
official.
injury to insult. It's official. He's done. Wow. What a disaster. So they're already dealing with Tyrod Taylor's banged up. They had to go to Tommy DeVito yesterday. Stepped in there and played for them.
Sounds like a loan shark.
It's not a good thing. And they lose 30-6 to the Raiders. Now the Raiders are a whole different situation. So that we know during the week they fired the coach, the GM, the offensive coordinator. They bring in Antonio Pierce. All of a sudden, they felt like the weight was lifted off them. They played loose. They played well. They win 30-6, and they get the win. And they were up 24-0 at the half. Raiders had 8 sacks in the game. But what a miserable year for the Giants. They're 2-7 now. I mean, this could very well be a team that wins maybe 3-4 games max this season, going from a team that made the playoffs last year. And here's the thing. I don't care how much money they have tied into Daniel Jones.
I'm drafting a quarterback.
They damn well better take a quarterback. They're nuts if they don't.
I'm taking a quarterback, and I don't care if I have to sit him for the first year and let him just chill, relax.
Mhm.
At least I know I have him there. The great thing about I give credit to the Arizona Cardinals, right? And this is kind of separate, but I give credit to them in this regard. They drafted Josh Rosen, remember?
Yeah.
First round. Josh Allen went, Josh Rosen went, and all that kind of stuff. And Rosen was like, I'm going to make those people eat their words, whoever passed on, whatever. Okay, that's besides the point. But the reality is he was a mistake. And you know what they did the following year? Drafted Kyler Murray, number 1 overall.
Yep.
So I respect a team who's willing to admit a mistake before things get too. But I never respect a team who digs their heels in so far that they're willing to sacrifice the future of their organization because they don't want to admit defeat in a decision. People make bad decisions every single day, right? The key is bouncing back from it. Well, first and foremost, acknowledging the mistake, acknowledging where you went wrong, and then building off of it and bouncing back. It's nothing. People make mistakes all the time. It's an imperfect league. The draft is an imperfect science.
Yep.
Right? Who would have thought Tom Brady would have been what he was? You know what I'm saying? And he was drafted in the 6th, 7th round. So the Eagles, another example. Carson Wentz, they saw the writing on the wall. They don't care how much they paid him. You know what they did? Traded him somehow, somehow flipped him into a 1st-round pick. And then they had Jalen Hurts, waiting in the rafters. I mean, it's nothing wrong with admitting you made a mistake, man. And some of these organizations, they're so egotistic, they're so ego-driven that this is why I respect what the Raiders did.
Yep.
They fired their head coach. They fired the OC. I don't know who else they got rid of. Oh, they benched Jimmy Garoppolo and said, you know what? This season's probably over.
We're going with the young guy. We're not going to roll Brian Hoyer out, who's,
we're going with the young guy. We're going to elevate the guy to interim head coach that everyone feels like is perfectly fit for the situation. And they decided it was Antonio Pierce. Shout out to him. A former linebacker for the New York Giants. Also, just to keep it real, because I'm always going to keep it real on the show, another black coach with an opportunity to potentially have the job long term. We'll see how things turn out for them if this team can, rally around him. But I'm afraid the Raiders are going to make this mistake. Remember, they fired the coach before McDaniels. Remember, they had
special
an
teams
interim
coach who did a really good job, who actually really stabilized the mess after Gruden.
And he came in. He came in on an interim basis for Gruden.
Yes.
And the team responded to him.
Yeah.
So my fear, as far as the Raiders go, is that they don't follow what the players want in this situation. The players responded to that guy. You got rid of him for some odd reason. You bring in McDaniel. Players don't respond to him. You fire him midseason. Now you got Antonio Pierce up there. Don't make the same mistake twice.
Agreed. But here's the problem. That what you're speaking is too much common sense. Mark Davis has very little common sense and has very little ability to decipher who's a good head coaching candidate and who isn't. So here's what I would say to you. If Pierce does a good job, I hope he gets it. He should get it. But with this guy owning them, I wouldn't put anything past him.
He can't even decide. He can't even figure out what's a good haircut or not.
It's the worst haircut I've ever seen.
Right. So again, man, shout out to Antonio Pierce for winning 30-6 against his former organization. It was almost like it was like storybook, right? You get your first opportunity to coach a team, and you end up smacking the team that gave you your first opportunity in the NFL, man. We'll see how. Listen, they're 4-5, right? If they can find a way to go 9-8 on the rest of the season, I'll take that. I'll take it, because you never know how things may shake up, man. In the AFC, man, you never know. If you can go 9-8 with the way things went for your season so far, I'm rolling with that.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, so the Raiders win. Giants are a mess. Commanders beat the Patriots 20-17. Howell had another pretty good game. 325 yards passing. He did have an interception, which almost hurt them, but it didn't, because the Commanders get a late interception of their own. They moved to 4-5. I don't think they're any kind of threat, personally.
Right.
But the other takeaway from this game is what a mess the Patriots are. Patriots are 2-7 this season.
I didn't see that coming.
I thought they were going to be middling. I thought they were 8-9. They're way worse than that.
There was a point where I was saying that, Matt Patricia as the OC last season kind of broke Mac Jones, right? But then part of me was like, well, it's pretty early in his career. He can be salvaged, right? It was only year 2. It's just crazy how someone goes from being a Pro Bowler in year 1, being considered for Rookie of the Year, because he was a really good rookie. Made it to the playoffs, you know what I mean? It seemed like that they found a quarterback for at least the next 5 to 7 years. You never know how things go in this NFL, but at least they found a guy for the foreseeable future. And you bring in Matt Patricia as the OC, okay, things don't really go as well, but you're still a middle of the road team. I think they went 8-9 or something like that. What did they go, like 7-10?
Yeah, it went around there. Yeah.
So you say to yourself, okay, mistake at the OC, the quarterback regressed a little bit, but we're going to bring in Bill O'Brien, a guy who's familiar with Mac Jones, a guy who's familiar with working with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, a guy who's familiar, and then all of a sudden you still don't see Mac Jones turning the corner. So that begs the question: is Mac Jones the problem? What do you think?
Okay, my answer is no. So here's my answer. I don't think he's the answer, but I don't think he's the sole problem. I think they need a quarterback, but I think they need a complete overhaul in their drafting, in their pro personnel scouting, the whole nine. I think Belichick, he'll never do this, but I think Belichick, if he stays there, needs a real GM who has input. He can't run the show anymore. He doesn't have Tom Brady to make up for all the mistakes anymore. He just doesn't have it. Brady saved his bacon for a long time, man.
Agreed. And then when you think about how they played in that Bills game, how Mac Jones delivered that game-winning drive, I'm like, okay, that's the Mac Jones I remember.
Yep.
Right? A guy who makes the right decision, doesn't turn the ball over. A guy who's efficient. You know what I'm saying? A guy who knows how to put the ball in his playmaker's hands. That was the Mac Jones I remember.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, he turns back into a pumpkin against the Dolphins. He turns back into a pumpkin against the Commanders. And it's like, will the real Mac Jones stand up?
I think we're seeing the real one. I think he's just at best mediocre. I really do. I don't think there's anything more there to tap into.
I think at this point, he's a career backup.
Yeah, and I'll give him a little bit of slightly in his defense. I don't.
He has
think
no weapons.
He hasn't been helped by the Patriots at all. The whole, like you said, giving him Patricia and that Joe Judge nonsense last year didn't help him. I don't like his receivers. I haven't liked his receivers the whole time he's been there. So
exactly, agreed.
Yeah, like most things, it's a little bit of everything there, but nonetheless, they're cooked. I mean, they're just straight up cooked.
Now, I will say I do like Kendrick Bourne, but he's not a number one. That's the problem, right? They got a bunch of number threes around him, and number two. I think Kendrick Bourne can be a very solid number two. He has 37 catches on the year on 55 targets, 406 yards.
He's a good Robin.
4 touchdowns, averages 50 yards a game. Right now, he's on pace. He's projected to have, he's only projected to have 767 yards on the season and 8 touchdowns. But again, those are those are like borderline number 2, number 3 numbers. I like Kendrick Bourne, but beyond Kendrick Bourne, I mean, like DeMario Douglas, like really, Devontae Parker has never been the same since the injury history. Juju Smith-Schuster, come on, dude. Like, he's a guy who's always been a product of his situation.
Yeah, he's great if he's got Mahomes or he's got Roethlisberger when he could still play. I mean,
or playing next to Antonio Brown. That makes your life a lot easier. So
right. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, so let's look at it real quick, standings wise, and where we are, because I want to get into what Josh Dobbs did yesterday, which was crazy.
Yeah, man, Dobbs.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. So here we are, 8-1 Eagles, basically up 2.5 on the Cowboys, who are 5-3 at this point. Eagles have the bye. Cowboys already had their bye. Forget about Washington at 4-5, and certainly forget about the Giants. So that's done. Now you look at the NFC in general, and this is what you would look at playoff wise. Eagles would be the 1 seed right now. Detroit would be the number 2 seed because they have only 2 losses, and they're leading their division. San Fran 5-3, leading the West. I still think they have a run in them, big run in them. New Orleans doesn't scare me in the least. Seattle right now, I'm iffy. Let me put it this way. I think they're good. I think they're a playoff team, but
they're
iffy
talented,
on
sure.
Yeah, what they are exactly. I think the Cowboys are still extremely dangerous. I really do. This will lead us into this one. Major props to the Vikings. Vikings have been dealing with a lot of stuff injury-wise. Kirk Cousins goes down, tears his Achilles, done for the year. Their backup is Nick Mullins, who's on the shelf with a back injury himself, okay? Mm-hmm. They start the kid Taron Hall yesterday, who gets concussion. Josh Dobbs, who they traded for at the trade deadline last Tuesday.
He just got there.
We're talking, that was 6 days ago, okay? Did not take a rep in practice. Did not even take nothing, okay? Admitted afterwards, he didn't know the names of most of the guys on the offensive side of the ball.
He said, look, don't even ask me because I don't even know.
Well, they said to Kevin O'Connell, the coach, hey, wasn't it real cool that Josh won a game in his hometown? And Kevin O'Connell's like, I'll be honest with you, dude. I don't even know where the guy's from.
He's from there?
He's from the Georgia area. Yeah. He's from Atlanta. But anyway, he comes in after the injury. He goes 20 of 30 for 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 66 yards rushing. Like in that last drive, he's converting 4th downs, 3rd downs with his wheels, with throws, and he ends up throwing the game winner, and they win the game over Atlanta. Like, that's unbelievable. Like,
did you see that scramble where they said like he scrambled a grand total of 50 yards? Like his his scramble, like his ability to just keep plays alive. That was one of the most gutsy performances of the weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A guy who doesn't even have his name on the locker yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A guy who it was so impressive because he started out the season in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Then was traded to Arizona. Then gets traded again. Right? It's just he's had to study so many different playbooks in the span of a year.
Right.
Right? Because before Cleveland, where was he prior to that? I can't quite remember.
Pittsburgh. Pretty sure he was in Pittsburgh before that. He has bounced around a ton.
He's bounced around. He's bounced around, but he's always been a guy who's just okay. Yeah. So listen to this. He was in Pittsburgh in 2020. 2022, he's in Tennessee.
Yep.
2023, Arizona. This gets traded mid-season to Minnesota. So it's like the dude is just, and then I could have sworn he was on Cleveland at one point. I could have sworn he was. Wasn't he in Cleveland when he played the Eagles in the preseason? Last season?
Then maybe they cut him. I think Cleveland traded him to Arizona. Cleveland traded him to Arizona.
Yes, they traded him before the season started, so that's probably why it didn't register right here.
Yes.
So again, a guy who's just a journeyman, but man, like the Eagles probably should have had him as a backup rather than Mariota.
Well, here's the other thing with him.
I'll ride with him.
He's literally a rocket scientist.
What?
He's a rocket, like the guy is a brainiac. Oh yeah, like I'm not kidding.
Walk me through this. So is he like? Does he have like his masters and something? Like, walk me through this here because.
All right. So he when he was at Tennessee, University, that's where he went to school.
Okay.
Yeah, he was unbelievably like smart. I'm pulling it up right now. I'll give you exactly what this guy's up to. Yeah, it's amazing. He is super duper smart. Okay. Okay, so he is the founder of Astroordinary Dobbs Foundation. He is an astrophysicist. That's what he graduated with. That was his degree from Tennessee. You know, we joke about it. Like he participated in an internship at NASA at the Kennedy Space Center. Like seriously, I mean, this guy is When he's done football, he's going to be fine. Let me put it to you this way: this guy will be all right. He's a very smart guy.
Like they always say, man, shoot for the moon and hope you land on the stars, man.
Yep, it's true. It's true. Unbelievable.
Oh man.
Yeah, so
that's dope. That's awesome, man. That's awesome, man. Who listen, revenge of the nerds, right? Who said nerds can't win? Who said nerds can't get the nerd at the end of the movie?
Not me, man. Not me. You know, it's unbelievable. Yeah, but that also helps. Like, granted, I'm not telling you he knew the whole playbook, but this dude is so bright. He's capable of getting the basics down and just getting out there and doing what you got to do.
Right.
They didn't even know the cadence. He's on the sideline with the center. Like, all right, the cadence. What do we do on 3? Like, they had no idea what was even going on. Like, it's pretty cool. And here's the other thing. This is where I started this off. Props to the Vikings, who are now all of a sudden really in legitimate playoff contention. They're 5-4. They're not dead.
Now let me ask you this though: do they want to really be in playoff contention? Kirk Cousins towards ACL. You're not going to resign him.
No, I know.
Where do you go?
They're not bad enough to be like one of those top 3s. So you might as well freaking go for it. Try and get in the playoffs and see what weird stuff can happen.
And then maybe you can, I don't know, see what the quarterback market looks like in the offseason, see if someone's disgruntled. Maybe you trade for someone like, it's because at this rate, they're going to be a mid-round draft pick.
I agree. They are. They're going to be right in the middle. They're going to be right in the middle. You're right.
That's one of the worst.
It's the worst place you can
to be in. Yeah.
You want to be good or terrible. The last place you want to be is the middle. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because it's not like the NBA where it's a lottery, right? It's just if you're good, you don't get you don't get great draft picks. If you're terrible, you get great. If you're in the middle, when you're a middle of the pack team, your GM, your scouts, I feel like when you're middle of the pack, you have to be exceptional in the front office because it's so easy to reach for a guy at that spot. It's so easy to make a mistake between a guy who's really a first round level talent versus a guy who's maybe a second or third round level talent. You know what I mean? It's so easy to make a mistake. You got to be tremendous at your job if you're drafting maybe between 14, 15, 16, anywhere in the teens, in the 20s. You got to be tremendous at your job.
Big time for sure. All right, let's come back. Let's do a full dive into the NFL, including some of the big games yesterday. Baltimore rolling at this point, what the Chiefs did in Germany. And I don't want to hear any more Miami. I don't want to hear it. Beat somebody real, which we'll get into it. We'll get into it. And what CJ Stroud is doing is nothing short of remarkable, man. Yeah. And
he's bringing the Ohio State curse, honestly.
He is. And don't look now, but Cincinnati's back in a big way after a slow start. So there's a lot to get. We got a game tonight too. We got Chargers Jets tonight. We'll dive into all of it when we come back. Don't go anywhere. That is Tone to Shields in for D Gun. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you about Flynn Tree Services. Flynn Tree Services, an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face. So if you have any types of issues, they're just a quick phone call away. They're experts trimming all types of trees, and they serve southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. Flynn Tree Services specializes in tree removal and tree pruning, as well as stump grinding. You go to their Facebook or Instagram page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com. That's flynntreeservices.com.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
EAGLES, Eagles.
1 o'clock. Yes, 1 o'clock in the East. hour number 3 of the program. Rob Ellis, Tone the Shield. Tone's in for D Dunn today. And we spent a large portion of the first couple hours, as you would expect, talking about the Eagles' win over the Cowboys, moving to 8-1 on the season as they enter the bye week. Out of the bye week, it'll be a Monday night matchup with the Chiefs. Man, woof, does that set up to be crazy? All right, so let's dip into some of the games around the league, Tone. We'll start with this one. Baltimore is legit. Baltimore's legit.
They're scary, man.
4 straight wins for the Ravens. They took care. They smashed. Let's face it. They smashed the Seahawks yesterday, 37-3. Baltimore's defense is nasty. Lamar is playing at a high level right now. If I'm Seattle, I'm a little bit concerned. So over the last 4 games, Tone, for Geno Smith, 6 interceptions and 4 touchdowns. He is trending the wrong way right now for the Seattle Seahawks. Look, Baltimore's been a place where NFC teams have gone to kind of die. You had the Lions going in there and getting beat up by them the previous week. And then, of course, this past week, was Seattle. So there's no crime in losing to them. Or actually, it was 2 weeks ago when they played Detroit. The Arizona game was last week. No crime losing to them, but Seattle wasn't really competitive in that game. I mean, they were fortunate. They were kind of hanging around a little bit in the first half, and then they just, Baltimore just pulled away in that game.
Yeah, their offense has kind of gotten stagnant over the past several weeks. When you really think about it, they've only scored. So in the past, so in the Ravens game, they only scored 3 points, right? In the Browns game, they only scored 20 points. I'm sorry, they scored 24 points. Excuse me. Cardinals game, they scored 20 points to win the game. Bengals game, they only scored 13 points, and they lose the game. So they haven't put up 30 points since week 3 of the NFL season. So they're struggling to string together some drives. They're struggling to be able to put up enough points to create some distance. They're so funny. The Seahawks are a very talented team. They're talented. And one may argue that they're a quarterback away. Listen, Geno, I think he's doing the best he can with his tool set, his toolkit. And he's obviously not playing as he's nowhere near, in my opinion, he's not as sharp as he was last year. Geno Smith right now, just looking at the numbers, last season he led the league in terms of completion percentage. He was completing 69.8% of his passes. At one point in the season, he was completing above 70%. But last season he completed 69, almost 70% of his passes, threw for just over 4,200 yards and 30 passing touchdowns and 11 interceptions. This season through 8 games, he's completing 65% of his passes. That's right at league average. He's thrown just over 1,800 passing yards. Only 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So he's pretty damn close to eclipsing the amount of interceptions he had last season. Right now, he's only projected to throw just over 3,800 passing yards, 19 passing touchdowns, 15 interceptions. That's a far cry from his season last year. So I think this is more so where I think this is who he really is, if you ask me. Again, it's better than what he's been in his career. Don't get it twisted. But I think this is actually more on par with who Geno Smith is right now.
I tend to agree with you. I think he can be better than he was yesterday for sure. But
Definitely. Yesterday was just woo.
It feels like yesterday or last year was sort of more the anomaly than anything else with him. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. It's a couple bad games. He's kind of gone through some of these stretches before. We'll see. But Baltimore, I would look at it right now in the AFC, Tone. I think Baltimore is the biggest threat to the Chiefs. I mean, if you look at it, there's a couple of teams like I said, we'll get to Miami in a minute. I'm not buying Miami. I think what the Jaguars have done is impressive. They've really gotten it together of late. Mm-hmm. But everybody else, like Pittsburgh and Cleveland, I'd say the 2 greatest threats to the Chiefs, Cincy and Baltimore. They're the 2 greatest threats, and everybody else is kind of pretenders in the AFC right now.
Yeah, look, man, that AFC North, I don't think it's locked up for anybody.
Nothing's easy there. That is just, that's a tough division.
The Ravens look great. Don't get it twisted. They look great right now. But they're 2-1 in the division. And I understand Pittsburgh, they're very, very inconsistent on offense. I mean, they're 5-3 because of their defense. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
And some opportunistic offense. But they're 5-3. Browns are 5-3. Bengals are 5-3. Just based off of the numbers, did you know the Bengals are 4th in their division? Just based off,
right?
That's insane, right?
Yep.
So in my humble opinion, the way I see this thing, and also all these other teams, like the Steelers, Browns, Bengals, they're 5-3, but all those teams had their bye as well. The Ravens haven't had their bye yet. So they played 9 games, whereas the other teams have played 8. So the way this division ekes out is going to be tremendous because Baltimore, who's coming up on their schedule right now, right? So Baltimore, they
have a pretty tough schedule to close out the year.
These next, see, look, they got the Browns, who just got Deshaun Watson back, right?
Yep.
And they won. They shut out the Cardinals. I mean, not really a tough feat, but
still getting him back is big.
Getting him back is huge. You got the Browns at home, Bengals at home. Then you got to go into the West Coast, try to beat the Chargers on the road. Then you got the Rams, who are pretty dead. But then you got the Jags, 49ers, Dolphins, Steelers. That outside of that Rams game, I mean, what do you like? Okay, on this final stretch, right? Let's think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games left, right?
Yeah.
Realistically, based off all those teams I mentioned, what's their record in that final 8-game stretch?
Oh boy. I'll say 5-3.
5-3. Okay, so you got them beating the Rams, obviously. I'm assuming you have them beating the Chargers.
Yes, which is I wouldn't even call that a toss-up game, but the Chargers are capable, but they seem to never come up big when it matters the most. But yeah.
Okay. So
I would say Rams, Chargers.
Rams, Chargers.
They're going to win.
That's 2 wins.
They'll win at home against Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's the last game of the season. That's 3 wins.
I think they win at home this week against Cleveland.
Okay, 4 wins.
What's that, 4?
That's 4. That leaves 4 games left.
I think they win. I think they win home against Miami, too.
Okay, that's 5 wins. So you have them losing against the 49ers. You have them losing against the Jags. Both of those games on the road. And I'm assuming you have you have them losing against Cincinnati.
Yeah. I'm going to give them one other loss. But if they get to that, if they get to that 5-3 mark, so they would have, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That's 12. That's 12-5. I think that wins that division.
But then the Bengals schedule. Let's look at that really quickly.
Okay.
The Bengals, they got the Texans. Then they got the Ravens.
That'll be a win. It won't be easy, but it'll be a win.
Right. They got the Texans, Ravens, Steelers, Jaguars, Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, Browns. Ooh, this is going to be a hell of a stretch for the AFC North.
Yeah,
I have no idea who's going to win this thing, Rob.
Man.
Because the Bengals and the Ravens, they have some very interesting matchups where they have so many toss-up games.
Yeah, these two they're both pretty challenging schedules right there.
And then the Browns, okay, they got the Ravens, Steelers, Broncos, Rams, Jags, Bears, Texans, Jets. You could probably argue the Browns are the easier stretch, final 8-game stretch. You can make an argument because Texans, Bears, Rams, Broncos, and then Jets. You could probably make an argument for them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, man, the way the Browns look sometimes on offense with Deshaun Watson, you never know what you're going to get from him lately.
True. And if he can stay healthy too. Yeah.
The AFC North still, in my humble opinion, even with the Ravens playing as well as they are, it's a toss-up. It's really a toss-up.
Agreed. All right, so that's interesting, and that will keep us with the Bengals beating the Bills last night. Since he's won 4 straight, I mentioned this to you in our pre-show meeting. So Buffalo hasn't won 2 straight, Tone, since weeks 3 and 4.
Wow.
So, and some of that is explainable by injury and some of it isn't. It's just they have not played up to, I think, what their standard is and what their hopes were for this year. And by them being so up and down, it's kind of left the door open in that division. Like, yes, the Dolphins are 6-3, but we've seen the Dolphins can't beat good teams. The Jets, who play tonight in a game that they very well could win at home against the Chargers, if they do, they're 5-3. Jets are not out of this thing for the playoffs, and then what's going to happen, man. If we're getting towards the end of the year and somehow the Jets sneak in, all we're going to be hearing is Aaron Rodgers hype. That's all we're going to be hearing about him potentially coming back and playing.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
Without a shadow of a doubt. This is another division, in my opinion, at least with the top 3 teams, Dolphins, Jets, Bills. I mean, I know the Bills haven't really been playing too well, but it's kind of hard to count them out because of that Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs combo. It's kind of hard to just count them out entirely.
Yeah.
But again, this is going to come down to the final stretch of that schedule, man. I mean, let's kind of do the same thing we did for the AFC North, right? Let's kind of look at what's coming up for the Miami Dolphins. Let's start with them because they lead the division. The Miami Dolphins, next up, they have the Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. I think they beat the Raiders. I think they beat. See, that's a road game at the Jets, though. I think they can beat the Raiders. They can beat the Jets. They can beat the Commanders. They can beat the Titans. They can beat the Jets. I think they lose to the Cowboys. I think they lose to the Ravens.
Yeah.
And I think the Bills edged them out in the final game of the season. I think the Miami Dolphins lose their final 3 games of the season.
It could be that way. I mean, this thing is wide open in that division. It is very. I am not a believer in Miami. They need to prove it to me. I'm not a believer. Not.
Yep. And then the Jets, they got the Chargers tonight.
Yep.
But then they have Raiders, Bills, Dolphins, Falcons, Texans, Dolphins, Commanders, Browns, Patriots.
It's not the hardest schedule in the world.
It's not the hardest thing in the world.
It's easier than the other two have than the 2 teams we just talked about. It's easier.
Right. And again, no one's saying Zach Wilson is this world beater, but they find a way to win games.
Well, their defense is really good. Yeah. I mean, what they need from him is just don't turn it over, man. And keep some drives alive. Get Breece Hall the ball a lot. Try and get the ball to Garrett Wilson without turning it over. That's all you're asking from him. Just don't kill us. That's all.
Yeah. And then the Bills, Broncos, Jets, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Patriots, Dolphins.
Yeah.
Man, another division that can potentially be a toss-up because of how things may shake out, man. It's going to, again, man, the AFC, by no stretch of the imagination, is locked and loaded.
No, that's for sure. All right, I wanted to hit this one. So CJ Stroud yesterday in the Texans comeback win goes for 470 in the air, 30 of 42 passing, 5 touchdowns, no picks, 147.8 passer rating. He threw the game-winning touchdown with 6 seconds left to march them all the way down the field with under a minute to go. To talk about this is a runaway, it is the ultimate runaway. Like it is. He has smashed and destroyed the other rookie quarterbacks. I mean, it's been a tough go for Bryce Young. Anthony Richardson, it's a shame he got hurt because there were some nice things that we saw from him.
Yeah.
And
Levis had a coming out game, but then kind of came back down to earth a little bit.
Right. And that one, in fairness, we got to give him a little bit of time before we make it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. He hasn't really played anything, so we can't really judge him really. So,
but Stroud's been spectacular. His touchdown to interception ratio is 14-1. On the season, he's got a 102.9 passer rating, and he's already thrown for over 2,200 yards. I mean, and they're 4-4. I mean, most people didn't think they'd win 4 games this year.
And if you look at some of those, if you look at their schedule, there are some games where you say, "Hold on, that should have been they should have beat the Falcons.
Yeah,
they should have beat the Saints, and they should have beat the Panthers."
Yep.
If we're being completely honest, they should be on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They should be on a 6-game winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
They should, but again, the way that Falcons game turned out. The way the Panthers game turned out, they lost those games with their defense being on the field, not the offense. The offense got the lead. Defense couldn't get a stop. So very easily they could be they're 4-4. Man, they should honestly maybe have only maybe three losses on the schedule, really.
Yeah, I mean, D'Amico Ryans.
They should be 5-3.
Yeah, D'Amico Ryans and their front office have done an awesome job because they didn't necessarily go full splashy move. They went solid, good player moves,
foundational moves.
Yeah, foundational kind of moves. And they, the biggest thing they're not all the way there yet, but they're trying to do a good job protecting CJ Stroud, which is always critical, obviously. But they're going to be good defensively eventually when they have with a guy like D'Amico Ryans as the head coach. But they're an interesting. I think he's done a great job. I think Shane Steichen's done a really good job with the Colts. They're
in every game. They're in every game they play.
Yeah, and they're not going to be a playoff team or anything like that. But all things considered, he's rolling with Gardner Minshew, man. There's he doesn't have his starter and Anthony Richardson. He's done a good job, Steichen. He's really shown himself well, I think, there.
Yeah, when it comes to CJ Stroud, just going back to him really quickly, in his rookie season, he's on pace to throw 593 attempts with 368 completions. That's a 62% completion percentage. A little below league average, but he's a rookie. So I'm not even faulting him for the completion percentage. He's still, in my opinion, doing the best he can right now, especially with the weapons he has. He's on pace for 4,824 passing yards and 30 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions with 102.9 passer rating on the season. What?
That's incredible.
If they get this kid a number one, because he has a running back.
Right.
And
yeah, he does. Pierce is good.
Yeah. And I feel like his offensive line is serviceable. If he can get, and I like his tight end and Dalton Schultz. If he can get a number one receiver, coupled with the who's the kid they drafted, the receiver they drafted out of it's not Hyatt, but what's his name? Tank Dell. Tank Dell. I liked him in college.
Tank Dell has a nice connection with him. Yeah, Hyatt went to the Giants, but their GM Nick Casario's done a really props to him.
Hell of a
job.
job.
Nice job. Yep.
Hell of a job, man. He's 3 receivers had over 100 yards in that game yesterday.
No, I mean, geez, he threw for 470, man. Some guys are going to put some yards up, right?
It was a hell of a game, man. That kid, awesome. He's actively breaking the Ohio State curse without
single-handedly.
Single-handedly, man. You got to give credit where credit's due, man.
He's done a good job, yeah.
Spectacular.
So this is a shame when it rains, it pours on the Vikings here. They traded for Cam Akers earlier in the year, the running back. He tore his Achilles yesterday. He's done for the season. So the hits keep coming, man, on them.
Did you know he was supposed to be the emergency quarterback if Josh Dobbs went down?
No. Why? He probably played in high school or something. Yeah.
Right. So Cam Akers goes down. Now you have no quarterbacks left besides Josh Dobbs, and he does what he does. That makes it that much more impressive.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is awesome. Well, you saw yesterday their kicker went down. So they used their running back kicked an extra point.
Yeah. I think the same thing happened with the Texans too, right? Because I think their kicker went down too.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry. I meant the Texans. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Because in that game, they didn't even go for kick the field goal. They just kneeled it and said, you know what?
They did. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Now we're going to take our chances.
Yeah. Which is smart. I mean, it could have been a disaster if that's the case.
Smart. Yeah.
All right. So basically, speaking of Ohio State quarterbacks, we still don't know when we're going to see Justin Fields. Tyson Bagent started again yesterday. I don't think it really matters who starts for the Bears at this point. They're going to get their doors blown off. But he's still trying to come back from a thumb injury. He practiced a little bit last week. He's getting closer, but they won't commit to him, being able to play yet. So they don't really know what's going on with them. They've had just I'll tell you, it's the Giants. If I had to look at it right now, I'd say the Bears, the Giants, New England. I mean, Carolina, and Arizona, you kind of expected this, right? So I'm not really that surprised. But I would say those other teams, have had absolutely are right there in contention for the most miserable seasons by far.
You know, let me take it a step further for you, right? Because you know this is supposed to be a really good quarterback draft. This is what they're saying, right? You know, Caleb is it Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams from USC.
Caleb Williams from USC, Bo Nix, all that kind of stuff. You know,
Drake May.
This is supposed to be a good
Michael
quarterback
Penix.
draft.
Yep. Mhm.
This is supposed to be a pretty good quarterback draft, right?
Yeah.
All these teams that are in like the top at least 7 have some decisions to make.
Yeah.
Arizona, you're going to have there's a chance you have the number 1 overall pick. Do you ride out with Kyler Murray, or do you trade back? What do you do, right? Or do you pick a quarterback? What do you do? The Chicago Bears had the 2nd and 3rd overall pick because the Carolina Panthers traded it to them. You know what the sad thing about Carolina? They can't even reap the benefits of being terrible.
Right, because they're not going to draft a quarterback. Yeah,
exactly. So, but even then, right? If you still had that 2nd overall pick somehow, if you still managed to get Bryce Young and still had your 2nd overall pick, at least you can get him a wide receiver and Marvin Harrison Jr., right? At least you can do that. But they can't even reap the benefits of being terrible. So then you got Chicago with the number 2 and number 3 overall picks. Will Chicago go for a quarterback? Will they give up on Justin Fields? You never know. Then the New York Giants, they gave Daniel Jones all that money. Do you draft a quarterback, or do you say, no, we're going to continue with the guy we have and try to put some more pieces around him? Maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. What do you do? New England, Mac Jones, I think they go for a quarterback, if I'm being honest. But still, you got to make that decision. Yep. And then the Rams, Matthew Stafford. What do you do? Are you going to draft the quarterback of the future? Or are you going to still rock out with Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, the problem is they don't have any picks.
Then, but
they traded everything away. Yeah.
But actually, this year they had their 1st round pick.
They do? Okay.
Yep. They got a 6th overall this year. It's their first one in a long time.
I would take a quarterback in a second.
And then Green Bay, 7th overall draft pick, Jordan Love. You gave him some money, to give him another year or 2 to really figure it out. But what do you do? Are you going to draft the quarterback, or are you going to try to see if Jordan Love can figure it out? Tampa Bay, I think they draft the quarterback. Denver, what are you going to do? You're getting 9th overall. You know what I'm saying? Russell Wilson.
They're locked in for a lot of money for Russell Wilson. I hear you.
Right.
Man.
Tennessee, top 10. You drafted a quarterback
2 straight years.
2 straight years in the first 3 rounds. I mean, what are we doing here, right? So listen, man, this is going to be a fascinating draft.
Oh, without question it is. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. There's a lot of things that are you have a lot of things going on with teams who are tied in financially. Arizona being like the number 1. That because Kyler Murray will not respond well to that. He's not going to look at that and say, "Oh, I'm up for the challenge" or anything like that. I'm telling you, it's going to be bad if they take somebody. I will tell you that. So Tyler says, which wide receiver went in the 1st round of the NFL draft? I guess he's talking about last year's draft. There was a run on them. There was a run on them late, if you remember, because I remember sitting there at draft night and saying to myself, "Oh my God, I can't believe I don't remember it going this far without there being a receiver taken." Then we started getting a couple of them taken late. So you want me to want to run through it? I'll run through it. You have it, Tony? If you don't,
I got it right here. Yep. Okay. So, all right. In terms of what the first wide receiver to come off the board was Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yep. At number that was all the way to 20.
There was 20. A run. Yeah. There was a run on him. So what happened was everyone started off. They got their quarterbacks, they got their linebackers, their D linemen, O line, all that kind of stuff, and then there was a huge run. It was almost like people were waiting for that first person to make it. It's like, okay, now it's going to start. Yeah. Jackson Smith-Njigba went 20th overall to Seattle. Then Quentin Johnston went 21st overall to the Chargers. And then Baltimore drafted Zay Flowers right after that. And then Minnesota drafted Jordan Addison. And that was pretty much the run right there. And right now, man, at least 3 of those guys, I know Quentin Johnston has had some moments for the Chargers, but right now, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Zay Flowers, and Jordan Addison look like slam dunks for those teams.
Yeah, I love Addison. Addison's done a really nice all year, but especially with Jefferson being down, he's done a really nice job. And Zay Flowers has been good too. The only knock on him was his size, but he plays tough. You know,
he plays big, plays stuff, and for a guy to play the way he's playing, and not having Justin Jefferson. See, he's doing what he's doing without having Justin Jefferson next to him, which tells me that he's actually he's commanding attention and still being productive.
Right.
So, and that's the difference between guys who are really good, regardless of who they play next to, they're going to still be productive. That was the knock on Juju Smith-Schuster. Right. I know I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, but Juju Smith playing next to AB, people kind of overhyped him, and I'm like, no, I don't think he's as good as people making him to be. And now we see it. Jordan Addison, man, he's doing it next to nobody, man. Maybe T.J. Hockenson, but man, he's still doing his thing, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that team's all of a sudden become very kind of interesting to watch, that Minnesota team, that's for sure. All right, so a couple other NFL news and notes. And again, if you're just tuning in, so two big things. One, Daniel Jones out rest of the season, torn ACL. Not that the Giants were going anywhere anyway, but it just further complicates their quarterback situation.
He got his money, man. He ain't tripping.
That's true. That is true. So that's the biggie. Unfortunately, from an Eagles standpoint, it is a fractured forearm for Dallas Goedert. Tom Pelissero reporting from the NFL Network, he'll have surgery as quickly as possible. The hope is it's only 4 to 6 weeks, which would get him back in time for the end of the regular season, Christmas time-ish, somewhere around there. The end of the regular season, get him back, get a couple games under his belt, and then he'll roll into the postseason. As Tone pointed out earlier, he got hurt right around the same time. I think this time frame's a little bit longer for the comeback, but nonetheless, he got hurt right around the same time frame last year and was able to come back. And you remember, had a big Super Bowl. Like, he came back and was still really good. So that, look, it could have been worse. We could have got news that this is a season-ending thing. So I'm actually weirdly, I don't know, optimistic that they're getting him back at some point. But you are going to miss him big during this Kansas City, Buffalo, Seattle, San Francisco, Dallas stretch. You are going to miss him big time. That's for sure. But like they say, somebody's got to step up here. So somebody does have to step up. All right, Chargers Jets tonight. What is your sense of that one, Tone? This game's in New York.
Ooh, this is a fascinating matchup because I don't believe in the Los Angeles Chargers in any shape, way, or form.
All right.
And it's sad because when you look at their team, right, they're very talented. Like, let's really call it what it is, right? You got Justin Herbert at quarterback, Austin Eckler at running back. You have Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston at wide receiver, two talented guys. They lost Mike Williams for the year, but you still have Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston, two talented guys. I've always felt like the Chargers were talented at tight end. None of those guys are big names, but they're very productive. In my opinion, I think they're upgraded at tight end. They're good on the offensive line. They're talented on defense with Joey Bosa. And do they still have, where is he? They still got Khalil Mack. You know what I mean? They got Eric Kendricks, in my opinion, who was a good linebacker throughout his career. Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr. at corner.
Yeah, there's talent.
They're talented. Mm-hmm. Yet they find ways to lose games. So I think if I really have to be as exciting as the Jets are at times, I might got to take the Chargers because of the quarterback position. That's really it. Right. I got to go with the Chargers on that.
Yeah, fair enough. I can't back Zach Wilson. As much as I believe in their defense, I can't back him in a tough spot. So I'm going to lean Chargers. I'm going to lean Chargers.
Now, if the Jets had Joshua Dobbs, then I might feel different.
Exactly. All right, let's come back. We get a bunch of things. Let's dip into the Sixers a little bit here, Tone. They're off to a 4-1 start. They've won 4 straight. They play against a team they should beat tonight again, the Washington Wizards. But dare I say, they are fun to watch. Yes, I know how we all felt about them, but let's talk about that when we get back. We'll dig into the Sixers a little bit. I'll give you some Philly stuff, a bunch of other things that we'll dive into and circle it back to the Eagles as well. He's Tony Shields. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. We'll be right back.
I remember getting my heart broken when they lost the Super Bowl in 2004. We're big Eagles fans. We moved to South Philly because of the Eagles. When they won, we went straight to Broad Street and everybody was going nuts over there, and it was just a memory that you'll never forget.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Back, final segment of the show. Sports Take. Let's smash the like if we could, friends. Appreciate it. He's Tone in for D Gun. I'm Rob, hanging out with you on this Monday. All right, Tone. So a couple things. Zach Wheeler wins the Gold Glove.
Sweet.
Yeah, very good. Certainly very good fielding pitcher. There's no doubt about that. I think had Ranger Suarez not been on the IR a bunch of times this year, I think he probably would have won it because he's their best fielding pitcher, but he missed probably too much time. But nonetheless, Wheeler, good for him getting any kind of acknowledgement because the guy's an absolute beast. So he wins the Gold Glove. Free agency has officially started in baseball, and the Phillies have two, big-time decisions to make. One, Aaron Nola. One, Rhys Hoskins. I think they will make a strong effort to try to bring Nola back. That doesn't mean he's coming back. He may get a crazy offer somewhere else. If that's the case, I think the Phillies have a limit. Like, they're not just going to, open up the checkbook and say, what do you want? It's not that way. They'll try hard, but ultimately he's going to roll if somebody gives him a crazy offer. I think Rhys Hoskins is gone. It's a shame. Nice guy, good team guy. He'll catch on somewhere and be a nice DH for somebody, but I just don't see it being here. So I think one is out, one could be back.
See, that's what I was going to ask you, because I'm thinking to myself, who would you rather have? And I understand, pitching is significantly more important in my opinion than bats, in my opinion.
Yep.
But Aaron Nola, as great as of a stretch he had in the playoffs, when it mattered at its absolute most, he turned back into a pumpkin. And then we've had more bad with him this season than good. With Rhys, I feel like they missed his bat. I really feel that way. because he's coming off that injury, his market won't be that vast. Do you think they should make a stronger push for Reese than they should for Nola?
So
because of the dynamic the dynamic that's surrounding Nola and how he plays.
I think everything you laid out is fair. I think that they definitely did miss Reese's bat, especially having some option off the bench. They did miss that. But because he's so limited in the field and because Schwarber's a DH and you can't really put him in the field, it just doesn't work here. So
Okay.
I think he goes somewhere else and he's a DH. And I think that's just probably the way it goes. As far as Nola goes, you're right. I mean, he didn't pitch well in game 6. No denying that. He did pitch very well towards
Prior
the
to
end of
that.
the year into the
Yeah.
playoffs right up until then. I think because Nola I don't see him having 2 straight really bad years, and he's a guy who
Okay.
still, no matter what, eats a lot of innings for you and strikes out a lot of guys. Like they're talking about
Would you say this was his worst, just the season, right? Not playoffs. Would you say this is his worst season of his career?
Yeah, he's had like 2 like this, but he usually bounces back off. I'm saying, including this one, has had 2 like this. He
Okay,
usually
all right,
bounces
okay.
back. The thing that worries me is like they're talking about potentially going after Blake Snell of the Padres. I don't love Blake Snell. He's very good. He's at his best when he's in a free agent year. And he's usually a guy who's out of there by the 5th or 6th inning. He even by today's standards, he doesn't pitch a lot of innings. So I would worry about both of those things if I were the Phillies. I would not make a hard push for Blake Snell if Nola walks. I'd go after somebody else. I'd try and make a trade or sign somebody else. I don't love Blake Snell. So
Blake Snell, all about the money more so.
And he's going to get it too. And he's going to get it.
And the fact that he can't really take you deep in innings. He's not.
Yeah, concerns me
Okay.
big time.
Fair enough.
All right, let's go to hoops here because the Sixers lost the opener by 1 point to the Bucks and have won 4 straight since then. And I know to some degree, like up until the Suns game, it wasn't the greatest level of competition, and they beat the Suns without Booker. And we can make all the excuses we want. They're playing good basketball. They're playing fun basketball. I think one of the things that's important in the early going here was a lot of us were so fed up with this team getting bounced in the second round and all the Harden crap and Doc Rivers and all that people either checked out or they basically were like, you know what? I don't even want to put myself through the emotional investment of this. I think now with the way they're being coached by Nick Nurse, by the way the ball's moving, what you're seeing on offense, how fun Maxey is, how the other pieces appear to be thriving like Tobias Harris. I 100% have enjoyed watching them play this year, and I'll be locked in on them tonight again against Washington. I'm telling you, you do whatever you want, but they're fun to watch. It's worth your time, especially with there not being baseball to watch during the week, in my opinion.
You know what stands out to me more than anything, right? Obviously, Maxey and Embiid are doing what they do, but what stands out to me about what they're doing is that they're both averaging just above 6 assists a game. That's, especially for Embiid, that's fascinating to me. And I believe in Tyrese Maxey's career, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's a career. I mean, again, it's only 5 games, but
yeah.
I think for his career, he's only averaged, let me make sure I got this right. His rookie year, 2 assists. His second season, 4 assists. Third season, averaged just over 3 assists. This year, he's averaging almost 7 assists a game. So, and he's averaging 26 points per game. I mean, he only turns the ball over maybe once a game, if maybe
right.
Like he's such an effective scorer, but he's also smart with the basketball, and he just makes the right basketball play. And like you said it best, right? They're so fun to watch, and it seems like they're generally having fun on the court. I love the way Nick Nurse has them moving around, right? It seems like everybody has an opportunity. It seems like everybody is a threat on the floor.
Yep.
Whereas though in Rivers' offense, you kind of knew where the scoring was going to come from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
it's Doc. It was Doc's offense, and I think it was Harden, just taking the air out of the ball a lot. Now with this team, it's moving more. It's moving. Guys are cutting. It's just different. It just, and they haven't even really worked the other guys into it much. They played a little bit on Saturday, but Batum's back with the team. Covington and KJ Martin and those guys, they're going to work them more in as we go, maybe starting tonight. But they've been fun, dare I say, to watch. They have.
Yeah, they have 4 players averaging 20 or more points per game right now through the first 5 games. Tobias Harris seems like he's functioning pretty well on the offense. I'm curious to see I'm curious to see what Tobias Harris' ceiling is in this offense because with James Harden being here, he kind of turned into a spot up shooter.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like Tobias Harris is much better than what his situation has kind of required of him. He's a big body, a very long guy. He can defend. He doesn't have the fastest feet, but his length allows him to defend. Great mid-range game. Great mid-range game. Can shoot the 3 no matter where you are. I wish he was a little bit stronger at finishing at the rim, but I think it just comes with him being aggressive. He's not aggressive enough at times, and I think this is an opportunity for him to do so, and I think it flows well with what Nick Nurse is doing. And, again, Embiid averaging almost 30 points a game, averaging 11 rebounds, averaging just over 2 blocks a game. They just seem significantly more effective and efficient. And their flow, they look way more cohesive. And, there's something to be said about, how we talk about Jalen Hurts, right? The Jalen Hurts effect, and just guys like playing with him. They like being around him. He's a player's player,
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey, same thing, right?
Totally.
They're 2 different kinds of people. Maxey's more bubbly, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But
Yep.
Maxey, he seems like the kind of guy you want to play with, right?
Yeah.
He's fun to watch. You want to play with him. He's always optimistic. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of vibe you need in that organization right now.
Yep.
Maybe depending on where Tyrese Maxey continues to take his career, who knows what his ceiling is right now? Because again, averaging 26 points per game, that might come down a little bit depending. Things level out once you get midway through the season. Sure. But man, if Tyrese Maxey can continue the way he's playing right now, averaging 38 minutes a game, that may turn the tide in what they may do in free agency in the offseason. That it may turn the tide in what may happen at the trade deadline. It may give Joel Embiid some hope in terms of, okay, maybe I don't need to go anywhere else to win this thing, because I think Tyrese Maxey can ball with the best of them. Maybe not the best defender, but you can tell he's worked on that pick and roll game. Like our guy Keith Pompey said, man, he said you can see he's worked on that pick and roll game, and he's efficient, shoots well from the 3. Where is he right now at 3-point scoring in terms of just his average? I think right now he's shooting 47%.
There's a good percentage.
That's a hell of a number. That's a hell of a number. And on top of that, just to put it in perspective, I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but just to put it in perspective, man, his rookie year, he shot 30% from the 3, right? Not really that good. But then he came back. He got out the lab. His second season, 42% from the 3. His third season, 43% from the 3. This season through 5 games, 47% from the 3. And again, I'm sure that's going to level up, but he's proven that he is a reliable 3-point shooter, not just off the spot up, but shooting off the dribble. And that's what makes him so dangerous. His ability to score off the dribble is spectacular.
Oh, agreed. And I thought what was really interesting yesterday, it was after Saturday's game. Sorry, not yesterday. But Nick Nurse was pretty critical of him in this sense. Like, Maxey had a good game. He had 22 and 10 and 5 rebounds, which you would think, good game, right? He shot 9 of 18 from the floor, 50%. But he said, I want him even more aggressive. I want him to get to the free throw line more than 2 times in the game, which we only went 2 times. He was 2 for 2. He said, we need more from him. I expect more from him. Everybody loves him, but I need him to be more aggressive. And he's the kind of guy you can say that about and talk about in that sense. Mm-hmm. Like he can handle it. So, I think you're going to come see a guy tonight, Maxey, who's going to come out and be super uber aggressive tonight.
Yeah, on the season he's a 93% free throw shooter. So that's amazing right then and there. And Nick Nurse isn't wrong, right? Especially when you think about the games where he his best games on the season is when he was being super aggressive at the free throw line, right? That Milwaukee game, he went 8 for 10 from the free throw line. The Portland game went 10 for 10, right? So, and the more you do it, the more you show that you're a threat down there, the refs are going to start to respect you, and you're going to start getting the calls. You know what I'm saying? So he can bang with the best of them, right? And he's gotten significantly stronger, in comparison to what he was his rookie year. He's got so much stronger. I like him exactly where he is in terms of his size and his athleticism. I like him just where he is, man. Tyrese Maxey, I've been a fan of his since we drafted him, man. Been a huge fan of him.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's good news for the Sixers. I don't know if you saw this. So I think it was over the weekend. I don't think we talked about it on Friday. So James Harden was asked about his time in Philadelphia and, what he expects with the Clippers. And he says at one point, we asked him about the system that he played. He said, hey, he said, it's not about the system. I am the system, basically. And he talked about how he was muzzled here and held down because he was asked to pass the ball a little bit more. And then he might make his debut tonight against the Knicks. Tone, I am rooting so hard every time the Clippers play for the other team. I can't even explain it to you. Go Knicks.
You know what's sad, man? Prior to him getting there, I liked the Clippers with the Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi combo. I liked that combo because Russell Westbrook got such a bad hand dealt with the Lakers. And a lot of people kept saying he's done. His career is over. You can't play with him. But when he got to the Clippers, you saw him turn back the clock and you saw, okay, it wasn't necessarily him. It was the situation he was in, right? Now you bring in James Harden. And now he's, in my opinion, you put him right back in the same situation. And James Harden, dude, at some point you got to wake up and smell the pheromone, my guy. You can't win with you. And he's so ball dominant. It makes me. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem like.
And he still thinks he's the guy from 10 years ago too.
Yeah, that's delusion at its finest. It's just not going to work out, man. The clip.
They're going to find out the hard way because that thing's going to go up in flames. It's not just him. It's combustible all over the place, and there's not enough balls to go around.
And then to talk about, say you were muzzled here, you had to pass the ball more. First of all, Joel Embiid, it was the best player on the team. You better pass the ball. You led the league in assists. Stop acting like you were so ineffective on offense, right? And honestly, when they tried to play through you at times, you were ineffective. You were inefficient, ineffective. You were streaky at best. Out of the 13 games played in the playoffs, you gave the Sixers 2 good games. His highs are too far from his lows. And that's why I can't rock with that, man. And besides, another thing too, you think going to the Clippers with more star power, you think you're going to have more freedom?
Right. Well, the other thing is this was a great way to sort of transition the tail end of your career to be the playmaker distributor guy. It was perfect. You led the league in assists. It worked. Keep rolling with that. That's the best way for you to keep collecting big checks, James, which seems to be your priority. So
CP3 does it that way. CP3, he ain't stupid. He gets it.
Anyway, all right, let's move on from him. CJ McCollum has got a collapsed lung again. He went through this just 3 years ago, man. It's a little troubling here.
That's scary, man. Yeah, CJ McCollum. I've always been a really big CJ McCollum fan. I loved him with Portland. He's always been an effective scorer. On all 3 levels, man. And also just a good dude, knows the game, smart guy. Businessman. He has a thriving wine business. He's a guy that you love to hear talk about the game. So seeing that he's going through this, man, it really sucks. Still a relatively young guy, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
What is he? He's 32 in NBA years. He's considered.
But I could see this guy playing for 5 more
OG.
years easily. Yeah.
Definitely. Underdog story coming out of Lehigh. You know what I'm saying? Around he's always been an effective player, right? This season through the 6 games he played, he was averaging 21 points. Last season, 20 points. The year before that, 24.
Yep.
For his entire career, he's averaged 19.4 points. But if you extrapolate his first 2 seasons in Portland, where he was coming off the bench, really didn't get too much time. If you extrapolate those years, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For 10 straight years in the NBA, he's averaged 20 or more points. That's the kind of guy you want, man. That's impressive. For 10 straight years, he's been the model for consistency, man. And he's not one of those guys that rests and sits out game. He plays.
Yeah,
if he's healthy, he'll play. But over the past, 5 years or so, he's kind of been dealing with some nagging injuries, man. And the lung is one of them. And you don't want to play around with that. So I'm hoping for the best for CJ McCollum, man. It just seems like a cool dude, man.
All right, let me give you some baseball updates. Craig Counsell leaving the Brewers. He's going to coach the Cubs. The Cubs have fired David Ross. Craig Counsell goes there. Carlos Mendoza hired by the Mets to be their manager. Stephen Vogt gets the nod as the Guardians' new manager. So some guys changing addresses and some guys stepping in there baseball wise. So we'll start to see some hot stove stuff and some Philly stuff, heating up. That's for sure. As we get going here into the off season, as the playoffs came to a close last week. So that's two things baseball wise happening. I wanted to mix in a little bit tone of college football here.
Okay, cool.
So,
let's do it.
USC fired their defensive coordinator. They lost 52-42 to Washington. Their defense has been kind of a mess this year. Feels a little bit like a finger pointing move from Lincoln Riley, but nonetheless, his offense did score 42 and they still lost by 10. So that happened. Colorado's now lost 3 straight and 5 of 6. Before the game Saturday, they I guess demoted Sean Lewis, who was their offensive coordinator / play caller. And you know who they turned to call plays? Pat Shurmur, former Eagles offensive coordinator, actually coached a game when when Chip Kelly got canned. He did. He
former Giants coach too, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think Colorado was an amazing story and start, but the reality is when you don't have the horses in the trenches at the offensive line and the defensive line, eventually it's going to start catching up to you when you start really playing the big boys. And what you're seeing is Shedeur Sanders taking a beating, the offense not being as effective. And, now Deion's, reacting to what's going on here. We're trying to change things up a little bit.
Yeah. The reality is, man, he took over a situation that was dead in the water. Right. I mean, completely dead in the water. And he completely shifted the fortune or the optimism of not only that program, but the city of Boulder, that school. He's brought so many eyes, so much attention, to that team. You got to give credit where credit is due, and you got to crawl before you can walk, man. Rome wasn't built in a day, and look, the reality is they're 4-5 right now, and they have struggled. They have struggled in the Pac-12. They're 1-5 in the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. So they've struggled in their conference. The Pac-12 is about to be non-existent anyway, so we're about to see where this thing goes. But overall, man, when you think about where they were last year and where he's brought them now, listen, man, he's trying to it's almost like trying to rebuild the program from the ground up. You dig what I'm saying? Like think about Coach Crocker, what he's doing in Eastern, right? He's trying to build a program from literally dust. It was nothing there. He's literally building from the studs, the foundation, everything. He's laying the concrete down himself. Kind of similar. What's going on in Colorado, man. There was no foundation, there no concrete, no sand. It's just nothing. And he has a lot much more financial backing than Eastern University, of course. But it only can get better from here, right? It only can get better. And because of the attention he's bringing to the program, and the reality is NIL is such a huge deal, in this industry, with NIL being as important as it is. And as many eyes that Deion is garnering over there, players are going to want recruits. Players are going to want to go there. So I'm willing to bet next year they'll be ranked. I don't know if they'll be top 5,
right? Because it's easier to correct things on the fly quicker now than it was back in the day, without question.
But they'll definitely be ranked. They'll be ranked next year for sure.
Oh, I think they will too. I would agree with that. The interesting thing is if Shedeur comes out, he's gonna have to replace him, obviously, with the quarterback and that kind of stuff. But we'll see.
I don't think he's coming out though. I don't think so.
You think he's gonna stay?
I think he's gonna stay.
He's gonna make a lot of NIL money, and it's not like he's hurting for money anyway, considering his family situation. So we'll see. Right. I mean, the only problem Of course, I have no problem with kids staying in. If you want to stay in college and you feel like you're not ready to make that leap yet, man, by all means, stay in. I just worry about football players getting hurt, getting serious injuries. That's my only concern would be that. All right, man. It was a lot of fun today, Tone. Great job.
Yeah, man. Rob, I appreciate you, man. You made it easy, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, man, I love working with you. So I want to thank everybody in the chat. Excellent job. Great points from all of you guys. Want to thank everybody streaming, everybody listening. And we have the National Football Show coming your way next with Dan Silva. By the way, I meant to remind people of this or let people know about this earlier in the show, Tone. Thursday, we're going to have Brian Dawkins on with us. So that's going to be awesome. So we're looking forward to that. Like tomorrow, it's going to be a lot of kind of looking at where the Eagles are at this point and, gauging them with the other teams in the NFC. And then, of course, looking forward to the Chiefs and what that game is going to hold. All right, we got to run. Yeah. Tone, see you tomorrow, my friend.
Quick shout out to our guy D-Gun, man. Quick shout out to our guy D-Gun. We appreciate him. And D-Gun, we love you, man. A lot of prayers, a lot of love being sent your way, my guy. Better days are coming, best believe it.
Amen. Amen to that. That's for sure. All right. That'll do it for us. We will be back with you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Don't go anywhere. National Football Show coming your way. We appreciate it. For Tone, I'm Rob. Take care. Have a great Monday.